Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Opendoor.policy. It has been a week since we last came on. Thank you for staying with us. I have a episode tonight. It is one I've been anticipating for quite some time. I'm a little bit excited for it. Tonight we're going to have a Christian independent researcher who is a self-described contrarian journalist and likes to play devil's advocate when calling out cultural and spiritual hypocrisies within society, and that perhaps the body of Christ, who many may unknowingly be practitioners of the Kabbalah. So with that, I'm going to bring it on in. I'm going to have my co-host, as always, introduce his lovely self, and then we will have our guest take it away. So, Brendan.
Sailor Boy Troy, how are you?
How are you, sir?
Oh yeah, we are going to have such a great conversation tonight. We got ourselves Brandon Kroll here.
Well, I'm gonna have to call you Brendan number one and him number two, because the ways you guys are stacked here, because it's hard for me to keep it in line.
Well, that's all good.
Is that over my face? Just out of curiosity, the Opendoor.policy, you guys can see me.
Yeah, we're gonna switch that.
Okay. Because I couldn't. All right, there we go.
There we go.
I'm over here trying to like see you guys from it.
You can put it over my face. We don't need to see that.
Wow.
I didn't say it. So, Brandon, welcome to the show. Brandon, bring him on in. How you been? What's been going on this week?
Oh, what hasn't been going on?
Wrong, Brendan, but I'll hear it. Oh. It's all right.
You didn't say number
We're falling apart here, guys. What a start.
It's all good. Thank you so much, Troy. No, yeah, it's been a week. It's been a week since our last show. Our last show was we had the ketamine. We had Matt Patterson with the ketamine. So that was a great conversation. Especially with veterans and soldier on. So this show here is just as very interesting. We got Brandon Kroll on, who like in the intro likes to you're studying the hypocrisy of in between the religions of Christianity and faith, spirituality. Is that correct? And you kind of like to be devil's advocate a little bit.
Yes.
Yes.
I have a gripe with a lot of Christianity who think they've become quite pious, and they think that they're not practitioners of something in the occult. And I'm over here going, that's exactly what your Christmas tree is. That's exactly what this is. And I'll start with the cross. Oh, it's a sacred relic. No, it's not. It represents a Kaaba cube all sprawled out. I'll break this down to them. And then when I do, the common answers will be, well, that's not what it means to me, or God knows my heart. So it's now you've been confronted with the truth, but as opposed to saying, I'll look into what you just said, because as a Christian, we're supposed to learn to die to self daily and to abstain from things of this world. And as opposed to doing that, a lot of times when I confront a Christian, like, that's actually not biblical. Here's a verse for it, right? You're supposed to use the word to reprove each other and become better. And as opposed to seeing that within Christianity, I see people getting hostile and or, they push you away because you're going to ruin the way I interpret the world. That's exactly what Kabbalah is. I can make God powerful in my own eyes by twisting his word, what the devil did back in the Garden of Eden to tempting Christ in the wilderness. Take God's word, misconstrue it, deny, delude, and distract from what it actually says. And then you basically just created God in your own image, as opposed to man was created in God's image, right? That is what people are doing a lot within modern Christianity. And they don't even realize it. I said, that is paganism 101. Because you'll say, well, that's pagan. Okay, what is paganism? It's worshiping Satan. Okay, what is worshiping Satan?
Right.
Oh, you don't know. You don't know the
worshiping in the
rituals. You don't know
natural
the
world and stuff,
practices.
right?
Yeah, you don't know the belief systems. You just throw, you point your finger, but it's kind of like speck and beams where Christ was teaching that. Don't go pointing at somebody else unless you take care of your own front, before you start calling out other stuff. Even when it says judge not, there's a list of make sure before you start judging, you actually have backup for how you do so, right?
Okay.
But people don't want to read onto all that. But yeah,
It's really hard. It's
well, dude, I chuckle because a lot of people have left going to hear the guy behind the pulpit, and they've gone to the people on the podcast, which, ironically enough, the very word sermon means a conversation. But when you go to church, do you talk with the guy, or do you listen to him talk for about an hour and something minutes, and then you leave? You don't really converse, and then you have no discipleship. It's like putting cows into the little slots so that they eat their grain when you put them in the pews. And then when they're done, you put them back out in the pasture. But they don't know anything. They don't know how to do anything. You got fed, but you're not applicational. And that's the problem. Now when I'm being the disciple and I'm telling you this is how we make it applicational, you get mad at me. This is why I've changed my name to Sheepdog as a nickname. If you want to call me that, feel free. So we don't have, I call it that because the great shepherd is Christ, right? The word of God. I'm going to nip at your heels, and you may not like me, but as opposed to a wolf coming to your throat, what are you going to prefer? Someone nips at your heels to push you closer to the shepherd, right? Or are you going to get mad at me? Now, I'm going to be the first line of defense that's going to stand between you and the wolf, call the elites, fill in the blank, and you won't appreciate me until the wolf's bite's nearly around your neck. But in the meantime, I'm going to try to nip at your heels so you don't get stuck in the mud, so you know where the direction you're supposed to go. That's kind of how I'm perceiving and have built my ministry around.
Wow. And at what point did you get like started seeing patterns that society or like culture needed this kind of alignment, or like for yourself? Like, I'm sure there's other things that you could be doing. Yeah. We could all be burying our heads in sand and just hanging out and drinking twisted teas. You know what I mean? So like when did you find it to a point where you're like, okay, I need to dive into this. I need to do more. What was your life like? Like, were you studying Christianity, growing up Christian?
Yeah, I grew up in a Christian household. I didn't become a Christian until I was about 12. And the very phrase that I used, I remember we were walking down the Connecticut River here in the States, and we went down to the third bench. It was the only one that was open. And the exact phrasing that I used, Lord, I want you to steer the helm of my ship, because I was big into pirates at the time. And immediately when I said that phrase, it was like this weight just got taken off my shoulders. And I kind of jumped, not like an extreme, but a little bit like, what's that? that was weird. I'd never felt something so supernatural in my life. And my dad didn't even notice. And I was like, okay, there was something there that gave me confirmation that what I just said and did, there was, I just made a commitment to something big. After that point, I'd go to church. I'd worked at a Christian Bible camp, and then I went to a school, very denominationalist focused. And there was times I was in a class and I would ask the teacher a question, especially like in history, and I actually knew the answer or a little bit more than the actual teacher did. And one of the guys actually wrote the book of the class textbook that we were using. And I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to a school to get like a degree and I'm finding I'm knowing more than this person, because I would read National Geographic, I'd read Ranger Rick. I anytime I had a chance to get a book in my hands, dude, I was reading a dictionary before I went to bed. That's like when I was 13, 14. Most people are playing video games. That's what I was doing. I know, real boring. Nerd. But that's just who I was. I loved words. I loved acting. And I have a whole thing with fictional series, and I wanted actually to do acting. I have especially like the steampunk versus medieval knights series called Tabernacle Shores, and it's basically my insights of how I see the world. It's kind of like writing the things that I see in the world and putting it into a fictional series and watching how people are battling it out. And I really liked using that format. It was very much of a journaling for myself, because a lot of the elements in there are off of my own life or things I see and perceive in the world. And then after I was done with that school in Florida, I came back I went to a local school, and this was probably one of the best teachers I ever met. His name was Professor Finkel. And as opposed to just teaching us the textbook as just read it, give me a paper, he'd do peculiar little things. Like once in a while, like we did Animal Farm. And one day he came in, says, I'm not going to say anything. I'm only going to talk for like 3 to 5 minutes, explain the instructions. I'm going to come in. I'm going to click on the slides that are going to be on the board. And I want you guys basically just to put all the tables in the classroom together and put the chairs all the way around them. And we're all going to sit and face each other. And then I'm not going to say anything. I want you guys all to talk it out. And as we kept clicking the slides, it was like, determine who's the leader, determine this. And so we were doing this. And then at the very end, he was saying, so which one of the animal characters are you in the book? Oh, so now it's become applicational, right? You're not just reading it for the sake of reading. You're going, oh, how would I react in this scenario? And you witnessed your personality become alive as opposed to just reading the literature for the sake of, okay, whatever. Same thing with like reading Shakespeare or older texts. Was there an insult that was just given here? You know, like, or how do we break down this thing? And for me, it really was teaching me the ground basis of how do you read between the lines? How do you read the text and go a little bit more? Try to understand the culture and the time frame of what you're reading, right? So a couple of years went by, and I'm not sure if it was during C19 or post, but I stumbled upon a comment where somebody was trying to explain the alien thing from a biblical perspective. Because again, I'd watch History Channel, and I'm not saying the thing that they got now, but I'd be like the early 2011, 2012. You know, well, you see like the cowboy and they saw something in the sky, and it was like, okay, that is interesting, but I don't have an answer. It was just more of a background munchies, something's playing. And for me, I was like, okay, from a biblical perspective. So I've seen Michael Heiser picked it up, and I've often said to folks, he's my Socrates, I his Plato. He kind of gave me a lot of the foundation, and then I went even further, incorporating, as you mentioned before, Alexander Hislop, the two Babylons, incorporating a lot of that other stuff as the foundation of, okay, we're missing some stuff here in the Bible. And as I kept digging, I think I figured out what the mark of the beast is. Based off of what I was reading. And then I read into the occult. So C19 was really the kickoff, you might say, is I was seeing so much deception going on in the world. Wow. And it really was just going, you know what? I don't know much, but what I do know, I'm going to share it. And apparently it was something that people wanted to hear. So I did that for about a year and a half, putting out memes and whatnot. And then I just got a real strong tug on the heart saying, Brandon, just put everything on the table. And I gave up my 401k and savings just to put out this content and do podcasting. And I suck at tech, but I'm trying to do the best I can. And it's helped a lot of people. I've gotten DMs of people having growth and actually making personal application as opposed to just consuming, you know? So
wow. So what are you trying to, like, what's the goal? Like, what are you trying to get out of humans? What do you want out of them? And then we're going to move on with the history after this. But like, what do you want to gain out of, like, what's the mission?
I wanted to be, like I said, I wanted to be an actor director. I have multiple universes in my head. There's times when I've explained it to somebody and they're like, what show is that? I said, no, that's in here. I want to put that on the screen. Very original. Definitely something I'd be like, whoa, Hollywood hasn't seen something like this. And, you know, and I wanted to do that, dude. Then I gave it all over to this ministry. And ultimately what especially as you just asked that question, the biggest thing I've been noticing, I don't want followers. I want fellow doers. I want fellow doers in the word, not be just hearers of the word, but be ye doers also. That's kind of what I'm trying to do. And I've gotten comments where, Brandon, we're not all where you're at, or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't want you to be. I'm trying to give what I have so that you have confidence, right? To do it yourself. Well, I can't articulate. Fund the show. Well, I can't do this. Find something local, knit, visit somebody in a hospital, start making what you're hearing applicational in some way, shape, or form or avenue, as opposed to just check into going to church, check out, and go right back into the world and not really have any oomph to keep doing what you're doing. So I'm trying to basically fortify the saints, because in Revelation it says the Antichrist will make war against the saints. The very definition of the word saint means set apart. So if you're set apart from things of this world and they're trying to create a beast system where you're stuck part of this world, I'm trying to be the antithesis force of trying to help give people, you know what? I'm not going to just swing vaguely at a branch. I'm going to go directly for the roots, scorched earth. And that's what I'm trying to do. And
That's fucking honorable, man. That is honorable shit right there.
Yeah, we're right
Thank
there
you.
with you,
Thank
man.
you
Like,
so
I think
much. Thank
I
you
think
so
we're
much.
all on a list just for having this conversation. We've said that before, right? I mean,
I'm on a list,
you know
dude,
what?
right now. It's like there's like 7 people that like something I posted 3 hours ago. I'm like, they are really mad at me right now. The IDF who runs Meta, they're wearing their diapers full force now.
And I think the only fear really at the end, at least for people like us, is to not have apostasy, right? I think that's like one of the, like, you know, you can find the way. Like I have friends who are in this down the same path we are. Like a lot of the path you and I have is on the same path as some of these others, right? So, but to apostate some of it is dangerous, right? Like some people say, well, you have to have faith. Well, that's true in a sense, but at the same time, you're supposed to be reading the books. Like that's why I read the occult. That and everyone's like, why are you reading that book? I'm like, because you're supposed to know your enemy. You're not going to be damned for doing so, right? It's the art of war. It's everything. So as long as you're not reading the Latin out in aloud and doing like salt circles, I think you're okay to get the understanding of it, right? But to preach something half-cocked is why we're not supposed to preach it. You bring them to the water, you go, here's the library. Instead of saying, I don't like the water to thing, go, here's the library, go ahead and read it, or here's the front page headlines, do what you want. And a lot of people are at the front page headlines and never entering the doors of the library. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that I have found with people, and even myself trying to explain this, because my goal is to find the verbiage and articulate this in a way that people at a lay level could at least understand it to get to that point, right?
Right.
So when you had said, and it's funny how you had said you had woken up during COVID, I woke up a little bit after. I often wonder, is this something that was predetermined or pre-planned by big government, or was that the quickening that people talk often about? Like, because we hear about the new agers going the awakening, but then we look into the Bible and we see the quickening.
Yeah.
And so are they the same one on one, or is it being bastardized through the new age, which is Kabbalism, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with this thing, and that's why I wanted you on the show, so you can kind of go backwards. I think you're articulate enough to take all of that knowledge that you've had years worth to condense it into a Reader's Digest, something for people to at least go, even if they go, that asshole is wrong. Well, go look. If you go and open the book, the mission's complete.
I always tell that to people. I says, as opposed to like a Billy Carson who sits on stage with a nice suit tight and whatever, you're like, oh, and I know all this stuff about Hermes and and I'm over here like
3 hours about calling the poors shitty and bragging about his theater. Yeah,
right. I was like,
great leader,
dude. I can't stand this guy. I actually challenged him 6 times to a debate. Nope. Does Wes Huff? I'm like, okay, now you're gonna sue the guy because you get challenged and cross-examined on like. And this a part of the thing I would be doing is, okay, you believe in Hermes, let's talk about the cross. You're saying this is not possible with Christ. Well, let's break down all the symbolism that's just even with that. But no, and this is I just find it ironic, dude. But what you were just saying is like I did that, I think I was about 13, 14, and I told the Sunday school teacher when I was in teen group at the time, I was reading the Da Vinci Code. And for like a 2 to 3 minutes, he scolded me like, "Oh, you shouldn't read that. That's an occultic book, and that gets into Gnosticism and stuff like that." And I'm like, "You're using big words. I don't think you know what it means. It's like, inconceivable. It's like you don't even know what Gnosticism actually is." I'm not reading it to convert. I'm reading it to understand, because in the same light as you, why is this so appealing to people? I want to understand this because I want to understand how the human mind is working, right? Why would somebody gravitate towards this?
It's the same with the Book of Enoch. People were saying, "Oh, you have that book? That's so bad. That's so bad, 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 bad." I'm like, "Well, why is it bad? His name is mentioned in the Bible. Which Enoch we talking about? Are you saying it could have been Cain's book, or are you saying that it was the line? Like, is that where we're going? And why would it be bad? Because if that's the knowledge that was given to Enoch, then why would it be bad for us as humans to have it, right? And then you get into the Watchers and all that other nonsense. I don't want to say nonsense, but you know what I mean. And people just see that at surface level, but now the Enoch is such a prominent book in the zeitgeist of right now. Even if it were to be proven to be a bad book, I'm sitting on the fence with it regardless, but it's waking people up to at least look, right? I think that's the blessing out of all of it. If people are starting that journey, they're going to have that veil of protection at the end, right? Because like I'm not a pre-trib person. I'm not a mid-trib person. Like I don't even know if it's real, but because it is mentioned in there, you'll be taken up. Well, interpret it how you want. But if there were to be, I would say it would have to be a post. There's no other way it could be, because how are you going to prove yourself worthy when you were shown? Only the strongest are to survive. So if you're going to get through there, that's how you're going to be sainted at the end.
Well, that's actually the very definition of the word revelation means apocalypse from the Greek, and that's the lifting of a veil for a final act in a Greek play. And I'm chuckling because Manly P. Hall, 33-degree Mason, when mankind learns to read the language of symbolism, a great veil will fall from the eyes of men. So we literally are living in a point where all the players on the world stage are being revealed, how the intricacies are actually working. Knowledge is at our fingertips if we want to look it up. Again, you got browsers. You can work around the Google hassle. You can pick up the books, but you're too lazy to do so. And when you actually do pick up Enoch, dude, that's the only book in the world that explains how the angels get under the river Euphrates and how they're let out in Revelation. I'm over here going, okay, if it's even, again, I don't believe in second and third Enoch. I think those are, cultic. But I do believe in the first one. I think there's a lot of credibility. In the very least, as a historical, I want to understand things. And part of that is when, I can't remember what chapter, but the paraphrase says your kids are going to, God's condemning the fallen angels. And as he's locking them down there, says your kids are going to roam the earth for 70 generations until the time of the end. Now, if they all died in the flood or are going to die in the flood, I want to understand something. What do you mean, kids? Like, what do you mean until they come back? If they were all giants and stuff like that, how did giants come back? And I think I figured that out.
Ooh.
I'd love to hear it.
Okay. Yeah. Where to start? Okay. So I've been trying to figure out, ever since I was doing the Epic of Gilgamesh at the community college, how did he experience the flood? Doesn't say he died, doesn't say, he wasn't with the whole thing with Noah, but he experiences it. And I watch shows, and once in a while, you kind of have to wonder, like things like Stranger Things, when she goes into the little tub. Is there some kind of aquatic equivalent where you're able to time travel through the water or something? I don't know. But when I looked into the sigil of Ashtaroth, this is kind of what got me going with the dominoes. The sigil of Ashtaroth is the pentagram. And that connects to Nimrod's wife. So if Nimrod's wife is a witch, interesting. So if true, if not, I just said, okay, let's keep going. But when you get to the Book of Giants, there's a phrase that they got on this tablet, but they don't have the full thing. But roughly what it said was, and because these two giants, by the way, they know that they're going to die in the flood. And they're basically talking about, well, there's no way out of this. But in Gilgamesh, blank, blank, our hope. Gilgamesh? Well, Gilgamesh came post-flood, and that's alleged to be an equivalent of Nimrod, which Gilgamesh means archer. I was going, okay. How do they know he's going to save them? Or in Gilgamesh, our hope. Yeah. Yep. So it was making me scratch my head going, okay, they're having belief in a savior figure to save them, right? To somehow bring back their bodies because they know they're going to die in the flood. And when I was reading Dr. Michael Heiser, he was breaking down that we have that wrong with fallen angels. When they come down, they're not automatically demons. When a Nephilim was slain, killed their kid, they became a daemon, a D-A-I-M-O-N, or a D-A-E-M-O-N, meaning spirit being.
Disembodied spirit.
Right. So I said, that's very interesting because CERN over there in Switzerland has the logo of 666. Yep. CERN, named after Cernunnos, which is the Celtic god of the underworld. And I started looking into other equivalents. Osiris, god of the underworld. Patar, set apart. Yes. Patar, Peter, St. Peter. And I was going, okay. So then I was looking into the equivalents of Tammuz and Hermes, and this is Christ's pagan doppelganger. This is Nimrod's son. And allegedly when Nimrod died, his blood fell upon a conifer yew tree. This is why I don't call them the J word. I say yew because they're tree worshippers. And from this, he found the regeneration, reincarnation secrets of alchemy to have Nimrod reborn into his son, born again, right? Now, this is why on the tarot card, or on the magician, you'll see the Ouroboros, or the snake that eats its own tail, the forever symbol. That could be your DNA. that could be Saturn or the all-seeing eye. That we could put an hourglass. You know, that's why it's shaped like a figure 8. I was going, okay, so you think you cracked the time code, right? Time travel. And you start looking into like the Back to the Future movie. My mom is attracted to me. Nimrod allegedly did his own mom. The term mother probably has some sort of connotation, I would imagine, if the movie's supposed to be based off of that. Yeah. So I started going, okay, so if the logo is 666. Oh, great. He left. I'm going to miss this part.
Am I gone?
No, not you. The other Brandon.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm finding this interesting because they're trying to find the quote unquote the God particle. And the guy, when they opened it up, I think was it last year on the 8th, April 8th, they were trying to open up and find the God particle, right? Which when you look again on the tarot card, you find the eye, all seeing eye. You find the eye or the Roman numeral I over the magician doing the as above, so below, wearing a white tunic, red sash, like the Christ they always depict for us.
Mm-hmm.
And he has all the elements of alchemy on him. The Star of Remphan, aka the Star of David, that's on a certain country's flag.
Yep.
And it's between 2 rivers. That's what the 2 blue lines, the River Euphrates and the Nile. So I was going, okay, you guys want to bring back your kids. It's called Mark of the Beast. So then I started looking into this. I'm going to be doing a presentation soon on this. Started looking into the word of anarchy, which means to be against rulers of cities. It actually connects with the archons, which is another.
So you're going into the Gnosticism again with the probably going into the demiurge.
Yeah, right. A little bit, because I said, okay, and they said that these archons had faces of beasts. Interesting. So the root server for all computers is known as daemon. I kid you not. Yeah. And I was going, we have black mirrors. They call it cell phones. What do they call us in school? Pupils.
Yeah.
And they call this an iPhone. Right? And you keep going. Oh, wait a minute. Here's the thing. Now you start looking into internet. Inter, place for 2 more corpse. Net, to hold or restrain something. International. Inter, place for 2 more corpse. So let's say dead. Interfaith.
So,
dead faith.
So I'm gonna assume right now, and just you correct me if I'm wrong. Because you mentioned CERN and you're getting to this is kind of a route I've been to. Somehow you're going to end up mentioning Solomon's Temple and you're going to say something is bound to AI. Is that kind of where we're kind of looking at things possibly maybe coming from through the quantum? Yeah.
We're getting closer because I was chuckling. Even the word discernment, dis, set apart, cern, horned one, ment, mind, mental. Discernment, set apart the horned one from your mind. Holy Spirit, that's discernment. So I want to understand. Yeah, right. So
words matter.
Yeah,
people don't understand words matter.
Yeah, oh, dude, they really do. And when you keep
especially
digging,
when you explain, when you explain to them that spelling is literally a thing. Like every time you say a word, if you're saying it wrong, you're casting something incorrect. Obviously, if you believe in cause and effect, you're still creating something that is causing the issue if you give the wrong information. Which is kind of where you're at now with this stuff, right? People don't understand that you need a concordance to do most anything if you're truly searching, right? If you want to fact check your words, you need a concordance. But people see the size of that damn thing, they go, I don't even pick up a Bible and it's half as thick. So I mean, that's why, like at least these channels we have right now are. This is what's important, I believe.
100%, dude. 100%. Hold on, I want to see if you can pull up a calculator right now. One that would equate a letter equivalent to the number that you're about to give out, or have that chart next to what you're about to type in.
Ooh.
I got it here. I got my phone out. Is that gonna be good enough?
Okay, so if you could do put in the number that's equivalent to the letter I'm about to give you. And we're gonna spell out Corona. Okay. So C would equal 3.
Okay.
O would equal 15. R equals 18.
Am I just putting these, like adding them together, just writing out the letter?
And then when I tell you to hit the equal sign, you're gonna see what it spells.
Okay, I gotta do that again because I was just adding them as one letter. Okay. So 3 plus
3 plus 15
15 plus 18.
plus R is 18.
Yep.
O is 15. N is 14. A equals 1. Now hit equals.
Shit, I don't know if you can see it. I got 66.
6.66.
I can't even see my phone. Weird. That's strange. Look at that. guys.
666 Corona.
Yeah.
And I was
66.
reading this just recently. This is about 2-3 weeks old. Tertullian, an early church father, he was writing something about a Roman soldier. He was getting an award with a laurel wreath around his head, and it was called a corona. And he writes, a Christian should not be wearing that. Basically, he's writing in support of this individual, saying, I'm not going to wear it as a Christian because it is the devil's mark. And we already have the crown and laurel of Christ. So I was going, okay, corona, you just said is the equivalent of the devil's mark. Now, when you spell COVID backwards, it spells Divic. It connects with the database for doing, I'm not going to tell you
the Jewish demons.
And then a Divic, yes, a Hebrew spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why was it 19? 1 equals I or A, right? 9, AI. 9 is the 9th letter of the alphabet. Corona, 19. Corona AI.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was going, did we just hold up? Because now what was it called? Operation Warp Speed. Speed of light is 144,000.
So is the number of the raptured.
DNA, the Ouroboros, the DNA that we have, is a double helix of 144,000. And Revelation, there's a camp of the saints that is known as the 144,000. And I was going, Revelation, I think it's 6:2, the Antichrist was given a crown, a corona. I'm going, okay. Reel it back. We got to pause. What about this Trump guy? Well, Donald, world ruler. Sketchy, but whatever. Trump, to deceive or one-up, outdo somebody else. Okay, keep going. Donald is an equivalent of Adonis. Adonis's equivalent is Dumazid, a Sumerian goat shepherd god. Doesn't Christ say he's going to separate the sheep from the goats? I don't know, but he's affiliated himself a lot with goats, right? Elon posted, it was Donald Trump Jr. He posted the picture, the goat with Trump looking in the mirror, and a goat was staring back at him. At Mar-a-Lago, he has a goat that he stapled over with $100 bills of Trump, and Trump we trust, all over it.
Wow.
I was going, okay, that's weird, but again, possibly a coincidence. Let's keep going. Dumazid's equivalent is Tammuz. Yeah. Tammuz is found in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 8, when they're doing a sun god ceremony. Okay, whatever. Keep going. Tammuz, and the Greek equivalent is Hermes, the god of alchemy. Yep. Hermes in Rome is known as Mercury, and Mercury's equivalent goes back to Marduk and Baal. Dawn, Lord, owner, ruler. And then you go, Baal, Lord, owner, ruler.
Yeah. So it's like we're not even praying. We're not even praying to our God because of those three words alone.
You're praying to the doppelganger, Christ pagan doppelganger. So how would I explain this, right? Because it's like, okay, Brandon, hold on. If we're going by what the Book of Giants says, they're saying somehow in Nimrod they're going to put their hope. Nimrod gets freaking, what do the kids call it these days? He gets done in.
Done in.
He gets done in.
He gets unalived.
Yeah, unalived. Exactly. He gets.
You can use the real words here. We don't care if we get nuked. I like using real words.
It's so good. And so speaking of which, we'll go into that in a second. Thank you for reminding me. So he gets done in. But they have this thing where they start worshiping his son, right? And he starts translating the emerald tablets, right? The two pillars. Now, if you're on your computer, the other Brandon.
Yes.
Hover it around the pause button. Or anybody who's on their laptop, who's ever, doing whatever. Do you notice anything around that pause button?
What do you mean, just the two edges?
Yeah. The two pillars. And you're putting your cursor over two pillars before you go through it. the pillars of Yakin and Boaz, which connect to the Temple of Solomon, right? Before you go through heliocentricism and Hermeticism. You look on one pillar, you will note that they put a globe on it, as opposed to biblical cosmology, whatever you want to say about that. It just made me go interesting. And on the other, they'll have all these stars over it. So before you go between the equilibrium of going between realms, and you're hitting pause, right? Because you're about to go through something. About to go between realms before you see the next act about what's about to transpire, right? Entertainment to go through, to go into. So even with stuff, you're right, everyday thing. And you tip the play button, that's the sigil of Lucifer, a tipped over pyramid. Pyramid, pie, fire, Ra, sun god, in your, mid, in your midst, fire of the sun god in your midst. The all-seeing eye, the pyramid.
Yep.
It's on whose money? Because my
American money.
mentor is saying Antichrist has to come from Syria. I'm like, but whose money is this on?
It's on your money
Who's
and
the
the
guy
stars.
behind Operation Warp Speed? Who has name etymology to Baal? Right? I'm going, so is it possible? I don't know. But then we start looking into the definition of the V word, and that was created by a Freemason, right? Is Bruce Jenner's great-grandfather, ironically enough.
Mm-hmm.
That word means of or from a cow.
Mm.
And what do they call us? Goyim, cattle?
Yeah.
And it just so happens everybody that was in charge of that little elixir had dual citizenship with Israel and America.
If we're the cattle, aren't we supposed to be harvested for something? And
Exactly.
if so, what are they harvesting for? Because
that's where you're
I went down the rabbit hole a little bit, because I was one of those dummies back in the day that took the ancestry.com. I thought nothing of it, and then it started becoming a thing. And the last time I logged on it and looked, I was suddenly 6% Ashkenaz, and I was like, that's peculiar. What does that have to do with? And I've had this discussion with my friend, my other friend Gern, about that, where he's of the belief that we are the remnant, right? Where I go, well, how can that be? I said, he goes, you're not Ashkenaz. I'm like, how do you know that? Like, this is my DNA. He goes, tons of people have it. And then I looked in it. I was like, well, a lot of people who do get it are getting a 6% number. So what's the relevance? And then I looked into it, and the Ashkenaz were like the mystical sect of the Khazar mystical sect of the Judaism, right? And I was like, well, is that the reason why when I woke up or started taking whatever substances that my visions were all Masonic, checkerboard floors, archways, stairs, and I never had a reason for, like, whatever the dream realm is. And that's when I started digging into the Masonry, and I dug deep and deep and deep enough. Whereas I got to the door. I was there at initiation night, right? Like, I was ready to go. And I backed out last minute because I remembered what the Grand Master had said to me the one time. He says, oh, everybody's included, you know. And I asked him some questions he should have had the answers to, but he played it off like they're secrets. But what threw me was he was wearing a crucifix around his neck. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, why are you wearing a crucifix? He goes, well, anyone can join. I'm like, but that's a Catholic crucifix. I said, are you excommunicated? He's like, no. And I'm like, then you can't be in here. So, like, it started with a lie. And then I eventually saw because I had read the books and everything else, but then I saw the ritual, and that's when I drew the line. I was like, I will not do rituals. Like, I'll go and say whatever you want. I'm not doing a ritual. And that's what shifted me out of it. And then I started reading Morals and Dogma deeper and found Baphomet and all the other different levels. And here we are today, but people don't understand it. And the sad part is, because a lot of those things are the same things that Enoch, in the book of Enoch, the book of Adam would have had. All of these, there's a lot of good in there. Like, you can't say there isn't, but it's when it comes to I am God, or I am equal to God, or it is all myself. The New Age movement, it's all Kabbalah.
Right.
And anyone who says otherwise is a liar, or they're, again, doing surface level stuff. Because I've argued with New Agers, these hippy dippy people, all the time, and I'm like, do you even read your own spell books? I was like, please find the word Kabbalah. Please, whether it be started with a C, a Q, or a K, it's going to be referenced in your books at least one time. And nobody says anything otherwise, right? Because they don't want to. So there's something to it.
Yes.
right? And then the Kabbalah comes back to where we were just talking. It leads
Yeah.
back to the Talmud. So
It
sorry,
does-
I kind of went on a tangent, and I
No,
apologize.
that does interconnect. What you just said, what's the end goal? Is that they said by 2030 they want to use us as human antennas. Antennas. Hold up. So when Christ came down here, he was casting demons out of people, right? And they're saying you're the son of God. Now, again, I veer on traditional Trinitarian. I like saying what the early fathers were saying is Christ was God's word made flesh, which you get in John 1:14 and Revelation 19:13. When he returns, he is named the Word of God. So basically, think anything that God's ever thought, anything he's ever said, it's encapsulated in Christ. Fleshly, fulfilled with Abraham's seed, right? And the covenant that he made, but spiritually fulfilled with Christ coming from the heavenly realm, right? So you merge those two together. So if they want to use us as human antennas or create a zombie-like, what do you call it, empire, dystopia, is
Are
it
they trying to?
possible?
Do you think
An
they're trying to bind
international-
Nephilim with us?
Yes. So basically, you create an international demonic possession grid where once you sign into the mark of the beasts, right? They can go through anybody they want. They can have an orgy. They can do it. Why? Because you just mixed with machines and the elements, right? It's a pyramid scheme. Yeah.
Yep.
You just got duped into thinking, again, they might be putting that out there for like, oh, look, you might have a little bit of that chosen seed within yourself, right? And they just, and Ingersoll Lockwood, I'm not sure if you're familiar with those books, when they were foretelling that Trump's going to be the last president, or Baron Trump, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, the Underground Adventures, yeah.
Go to the website. You will find on the very bottom, like it's advertising for Space Force, which again, if you're familiar, you're like, yeah, okay. We go to the very bottom.
I have a resolution to Space Force, by the way. I do have a resolution. But it keeps flat Earth. It keeps flat Earth in check, right? If you go with the holographic model, that's the only way that flat Earth works. Is if you have to go with the holographic model, which is provable through the Masonic stuff, right? So
right, and you look at Baphomet, he sits on a dome.
Yep.
So where was I going with that? Hold
on.
Processing. Where was I going? Baphomet. Oh yeah, he's equivalent of Mithra. I was looking into that. So Constantine, book Rulers of Evil by Tupper Saucy. You might be able to get a digital online. Worth printing out because if they ever crash the grid, worth getting. I got a physical copy, thank God. But he was explaining how basically St. Paul and Peter, they became the new Romulus and Romus, right? For Rome. And they just basically Christianized pagan deities and sentiments, right? And that was making me go, okay. And then you find out why they created America. Now, I was looking a little bit more into the Baphomet. Salve, which is one tattoo on his arm, to bring something from one realm into an existence of this one. The other one, coagula, which means blood clot. Oh. The pentagram on the Baphomet's head is on the pineal gland. Pineal gland. So if we already had Salve, which was 9/11, which I said is coronation day for an Antichrist, that was alleged to be the coronation day for kings in ancient Israel, alleged to be Christ's birthday. I'm going, I can see it, right? And now we just had a thing called coagula, which a lot of people are having issues with that. Now we have the pentagram, which is affiliated with time travel. Now pull up the Hermetic Kabbalah tree of life, if you could.
You got that, Troy?
I got it.
All right, boss.
This one was the home run for me of maybe you're just a fringy nut job. Let's take a look and see what's there.
I just want to say, by the way, you two are amazing. I am enjoying every second listening to all this. I am right into it. It is so good.
On a game night, he said, it doesn't have to be anything specific. Just literally pull it out and I can point out the shapes. He was asking me if I listen to other podcasters because I do podcasting. And he's like, what about Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro? I'm like, oh, goodness, not Charlie. And he's like, why? I said, he endorsed the Talmud. And he goes, the what? The Talmud. And I'm explaining a little bit to him. And then I was pulling out one of the clips out at one of the things where a kid would come up and ask questions. And Charlie, when talking about has Christ boiling an excrement in hell, and he's squirming, he's opening his water bottle and doing all the things, and then he says his mother is a whore that made it with carpenters, blah blah blah. It's okay to have sex with kids at 3 years old, and he's saying all this, and then Charlie's response was, "Yes, those are all valid verses." I'm like, what? And I'm looking at my buddy, and my buddy Jack, he goes, "Don't talk about that or turn it off." I said, "Why?" I said, "Are you agreeing with what Charlie's saying?" He goes, "No, it's just not true." I'm like, "But do you look into it?" "No, you're just not going to talk about that in my household." And I was like, you know what?
Yep.
I'm done. I can't deal with you people. Is there
And
any
you
way
wonder
can
why
bring
your
that a
kids
little
get
bit
abused,
closer?
right? Because you don't want to look at anything at a more of a surface
Right.
level.
But dude, imagine getting to heaven and you were this close. Somebody like myself, I cracked some codes here, and all you have to do is ask. It's free. You're this close into accepting the mark because you're so stupid. And he in his room, Iron Man, NASA's rocket Space Force thing, plays video games all. I was like, you're just like ready for the emerging empire of Iron and Clay. Can you bring that in a little closer if possible, or no?
Let me see here.
If
Yeah, it's
possible,
funny you
if
brought up.
not,
You brought up. It's funny you brought up iron and clay, right? Because that's the only way that they could actually make, well, what do we call it? The transhumanism.
right. And that's on this thing, this chart. Actually, I might be able to pull up mine. Let me see. Would it let me share?
Yeah, you can share on here.
Would
You
you have
probably
to
have better
turn
stuff
that?
than I do.
Would you have to turn that on for me to be able to do?
Yeah, so just go to present screen there, and then it will pop up underneath, and I'll just add to screen whatever you want.
Let me just get my Canva, because the visuals will help immensely with what I'm talking about, and it's only one slide.
Hey, Brandon, where are you sitting right now with the Book of Enoch? Have you gotten far into it at all yet?
I have just cracked it.
Yeah.
Just cracked it. Yeah. Just started reading it. Just got it. I literally just got it.
That showed up like 4 days ago, I think it was.
Yeah, 4 days ago. Yeah. Yeah, just learning to read it, to be honest with you, and same with scriptures of like the Holy Bible and stuff. Learning to read it.
Did you get the brown one with the orange cover?
The Book of Enoch or the Bible?
The Book of Enoch, the thin one.
No, I didn't get the thin one. I got a combination of like the three of them, like 1, 2, 3.
Oh, okay, so you got Enoch 1 through 3.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you see what's on screen, perchance?
Gotcha.
Yep, I can see the Strocker system. We were just talking about this, actually.
Which is part of the Caduceus staff, which, again, you look at Baphomet's junk area.
At the bottom.
Yes, yes. So I was thinking, okay, crown chakra. It's known as Kether, or in Masonic Latin, corona, at the very top. Interesting. So I was thinking a crown. That sounds very similar to the Nebuchadnezzar statue from Daniel chapter 2, as he gets talking about the empire of iron and clay. So I said, let's keep going. The third eye, Saturn, right? Pineal gland right here. That is the all-seeing eye. Oh, okay. Kept going. The throat chakra, Mercury. Hermes was alleged to be a great orator. I was like, okay. Heart chakra, or moon. An interesting thing about moon, with cathode or Catholic, it means universal. And they have a thing on Chabad.org, the 7 universal Noahide laws. Mm-hmm. You just had Paula White Cain, Trump's spiritual advisor, who said, quote, to say no to Donald Trump is to say no to God. She just did a prayer praying to Mother Moon. What? I kept looking, and I'll get to the bottom. The root chakra is Mars. Now, isn't there a guy during his inauguration that said, we'll put our flag on Mars? And isn't there a guy who always says, occupy Mars, with a little shirt that he wears? Yep. Yeah, okay. The root chakra, or the hand sign for that, is 666.
Right.
It's X, aka 10, on the Malkuth scale. A equals 1, I equals 9. AI equals X in Roman numerals. 10.
So everything's pointing towards Elon in a sense. I wanted to ask you that about his name, actually. Like, it starts with L right away, right? So, like, what's your take on that? Because a lot of L's, right?
Well, if I remember correctly, L Lord and then Musk, I think, is connecting with some kind of oak tree in Hebrew.
Yeah, oak
So the
tree, but
strong tree, the roots, like root chakra. His nanny in Canada, when they came over from South Africa, she saw him do something in his bedroom, which was very dark, and she said, "Is he the Antichrist?" And the lady that was in the inner circle, she looks over, she doesn't even blink. She goes, "No, but he'll present the mark, and the man who walks on stage after him, that will be the Antichrist." Now, Trump is the exchequer, the Vatican, and World Bank. And that's Gerald Posner's God's bankers. And if we already know the whore of Babylon has connections with Catholicism, and Trump gets a papal bull to get that to be transferred over to him, that means he's in charge of BlackRock. That means he's in charge of all those other corporations. That's in Trump's name.
so
And he has
governed by Saturn, governed by the rock, governed towards the third eye, which would be how they would implement neural net. And then the crown chakra, I'm not sure how that ties in. The only thing I do know is if you add up the
Corona.
petals within that chakra system, you do get 144,000.
Yes.
So that could be a trick too, right? Like because everyone thinks like it's only 144,000 getting raptured. It's like, no, that's the governors of those to be raptured now. If
Right.
they get 144,000 Nephilim binding to human bodies through AI, like
you get a zombie state of World War Z, but this is the empire that doesn't last because it's the empire of iron and clay. And how many toes are on a statue?
10.
10.
Yeah.
And I was going, ha. So again, when you put on the Virgin Mary, where do you see Christ always sucking? He sucks at the left breast, right?
Right.
You put this Hermetic Kabbalah tree of life over it. You got baby Jesus, aka Tammuz. He sucks at the Chakma, the wisdom breast.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
So how do we get to Yeshua then? Like if everything's been
Wow.
paganized and Christ has been like essentially Zeus, depending on who you're talking to and all of these things. Like how do we get to Yeshua? How do we convince people that you shouldn't be wearing a crucifix? Like how do you do that without them going, you're just trying to be a deceiver? Because maybe that was the greatest plan ever, right? Because if you're trying to say that's not Jesus, you sound like a deceiving idiot, right? So how do you keep people just like you said, you just put a dump truck of shit down their throat and hope that they swallow, like, or like
Dude,
what do you do at this point?
that's
Because
where
it seems like it's arguing with idiots at this point to when you get to a certain level.
Trust me, I'm there. What part of the thing is, and this is what I was noticing with even Christ, is when he was talking to the Pharisees, it says, if you knew my Father, you'd understand who I am. You'd understand the light of what I am bringing to you, right? If you want to understand, you have to be in the Word, not using the Word to justify your Kabbalah or Babylonian Talmud. You're using it because you actually want to make it applicational, as we get in the Psalms. Thy word I have hid in my heart that I may not sin against God. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet. So now I start looking at the sleeping bridesmaids, right? And we have that parable is that you had 5 that were awake and they had their lamps and they had their oil prepped, and you had 5 that fell asleep, right? And they're waiting for this groom to return, aka it's a parable of Christ coming back to pick us up. So what is the lamp? Well, if we go by Psalms, right, thy word is a lamp unto my feet. So if God's word is the lamp, cool. What is the oil then? Because the sleeping bridesmaids didn't have it, so they didn't have their lamps ready when he was coming. So that means they had the word, right, the Bible, but they didn't make it applicational. They didn't have Holy Spirit discernment. That is what oil is. You're setting apart the horned one from your mind. Was, again, saint, set apart from this world. A Christian is supposed to die to self daily. Then a good litmus test, if it wasn't a form of idolatry, it wouldn't irk you so much when somebody tells you that's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way to determine if you're in the faith or if you're not. Because if you truly are trying to change, you're saying, okay, I hate this, but I'll start implementing it. That's why I said even with Christmas trees, try to do it like a smoker with a patch. Get the Christmas tree, don't decorate it. Next year, get the plastic thing, then don't get the present. Wean yourself off. I get it. It's not going to be easy. It's not a snap of a finger. Because what you just said, Kabbalah, Christ was condemning traditions of men. The word Kabbalah means traditions.
Mhm.
MAGA means high priest of the sun or highest priest position on the Church of Satan website. The magician that I just told you, the Magi. Fun fact, we'll go on this and then I'll go back to what I was saying. Fun fact about the Magi. Now, it's alleged in Catholic lore, was it the Epiphany of John the Baptist? That was the day, J6, when Christ was baptized by John the Baptist. It's also the day as an adolescent that he was allegedly visited by the Magi. Root word for Magi, MAGA.
Mhm.
So anyways, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so they fell asleep, and then when they're knocking on the door, they're saying, let us into the marriage feast, let us into the marriage feast. He says, depart from me, I never knew you. You weren't ready for me. Why should I let you in? Right? I already gave you the open book, right? You have an open book test right now to make that applicational, and you don't want to do it. Now, ironically enough, he says, Lord, Lord, did we not do all of this in your name? You could put nationalism, you could put Zionism, right? You could put the Crusades. We did it all in your name.
Mhm.
I didn't condone any of that. I never made a weapon of war. When the first man was killed, Cain and Abel, I said, I hear your brother's blood crying from the face of the earth. Celestial seed or celestial currency is blood, a life force. When you read 7 things that the Lord hates, one of them is hands that shed innocent blood. Now you go to Gethsemane, and what did Peter do? He tries to cut one of the guys down, the servant, and he cuts off the guy's ear. He says, no, he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. Put your sword away. So he doesn't like the aspect of blood being shed in his name, which here's the thing. Now put MAGA backwards. It spells agam or agams. In Sanskrit, that's tradition. And you go agams, it's temple builders. Now, what did we say? When
Amazing.
Christ says in 3 days, I will tear down this temple. Now, is he talking about the physical structure? No. He's talking about himself. Because now we get in the New Testament, greater is he that is within you than he that is of the world. Know ye not your body is a temple of the Lord. Now, this is not New Ageism, as I'll just find him within, home. No, this is submitting to him because I want to have that within me. So if I don't have Holy Spirit discernment, I'm not going to understand the word. I'm not going to understand how to be a critical thinker and say, I'm going to read it, not to convert, but I want to understand. Because this is what they believe. Be ye simple as doves, wise as serpents. Be sober and vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walketh about as a roaring lion, seeking who he can devour. What's a lion go after? The weak, the straying one from the herd. So a Christian, again, ecclesia, the body, is supposed to come together. Now, Christ is in Gethsemane, and he just got done telling all those parables to his disciples about these sleeping bridesmaids, only like a chapter or 2 before. Gethsemane translates into oil press. Garden of Eden was paradise. So oil press, what's he doing? He's praying with his Father. We're at the pinnacle of spiritual warfare. The word of God is about to put his life on the line, right? Because the devil, he can't be like Creator God who spoke everything into existence. He can't kill God. That's what he wants to do, but he can't. But if you could kill God's word and he's in your realm as a human being, I win. I kill the integrity of the Creator. And the word comes back as the way, the truth, and the life. It conquers death, which his whole thing is about regeneration, reincarnation. That means what? The word is alive. And we have so many people worshiping the cross. It's a symbol of his strength. No, it's a symbol of his sacrifice, right? You're supposed to be living the word, not just read the Bible. Let the Bible read you. Die to self daily. I'm not reading this to become better than everybody else. I genuinely want to connect back with the Father. Now, I say this because, let's rewind. Do you remember the story where he heals that blind guy at Bethsaida? And he puts a little mud on his fingers and put a little spit, and he rubs it over the guy's eyes. Now, everybody in that town for the day was rejecting Christ prior, right? And this particular blind guy, and one who can't see, believes in Christ. Now, he could heal him instantaneously, but why did he do it like this? Puts a little spit, put a little bit of mud, and he tells me, what do you see? I see men like trees walking. Yeah. The blind guy, the one who can't see anything, I'm going to show you what I, the Word of God, see every day. I see everybody having a chance to come back to the Father, right? Tree of life, grafted in Christians, right? I see this every day. Everybody having a chance to come back to the root source, to be grafted back into the kingdom of heaven. And they're walking around and they don't even see their potential. And you look at the human body skeleton structure of the nerve system, it looks just like a tree.
Mhm.
So not only did
Does.
he heal him, he gave him a added bonus of this is what I see every single day. Anyways, for what you requested, here's your regular sight back.
Yeah.
Now go back home. Don't tell anybody what I just gave you because they're not going to understand it. Now I'll close with this and then I'll throw it back to you guys. I was digging into the whole thing when he says dust off your sandals, for those who don't want to hear the word or the message that you have today when he sends the disciples out 2 by 2. Dust off your sandals at that city and walk away. Now what's significant about that? Well, it says in Genesis that the serpent is going to eat the dust of the earth for the rest of his life, right? And I said, okay. So now you're dusting off your sandals. We're called dust thou art, and to dust thou shalt return. We're told not to build our houses upon the sand, right? So what is that ultimately symbolizing? I want to give you something that's spiritual, that is not of this earth, but you want to keep playing in your stupid sandbox. So guess what? God, I gave them something that was higher than this, but they don't want to understand you. They want to keep playing with the things of this earth, right? Earth is one of the things on the when you join the star Remphan together, the star David, star Solomon. Those are all the elements conjoined, right? And earth is at the very base. That's what the cross represents. It represents earth. The Kaaba cube represents earth, the world. And Christ, the word, conquers the world by being put on a cross and wearing a spiked corona on his head. Right? And he puts himself on that line and says, I have conquered it. It's done. But people don't want to submit to that. They don't want to pick up the cross, right? Because what does that mean? It's dying to the things of this world is picking up your cross, saying, I'm going to abstain from that stuff. Right? So I just found that all very interesting. It's like now we're at the point in the pinnacle of history where a lot of us, as you just said, we're over here saying, please look at the word. Please try to look in this path. We're literally pleading at this point. And it's like nobody wants to listen. Why? Because they don't actually love the word of God. If they did, you will know that it is in them. But we're not seeing them bearing fruit.
Wow, what a great message. Great message right there, for sure. Troy, you shoot it up, buddy.
I was just going to say, that's just kind of like how I look at it. And it's not so much a comfort thing for myself. Like, first of all, like I've always said, to assume you're going to heaven is to be a fool, right? Because like we should be humble, right? So anyone who's like, I'm going to be saved at the Pentecostal place, it's like you're going to be the first in the pit, right? And I always look at it that way, right? Because we're supposed to be humbled. But
most any man should boast, Romans 11 is when it's talking about the grafting. Yeah, correct.
100%, right? And the way I look at it, like even for people who aren't Christian yet, like as things get shittier, like people are gonna have a choice to make. They either gotta go God's real, or you're gonna join 1984 Gestapo. Like that's how I see the future. It's gonna be 1984. You're gonna have a chance to like be executed or live through it, right? Like kind of like the beginning of Escape from LA. It's like if you like to be deported, go this way. If you like to get killed, go in here.
Yes.
And I think that's exactly what it's going to turn. Like, I think that movie is our future, like to the very end, right? Like enter code 666, shut off the power, and cigarettes are illegal, right? Like John Carpenter, I'm almost certain, among other people, was a seer because the movies are too on point. But at the same time, like they have to show us their hand, and I never understood why they have to show us our hand. I think that is just to infer the free will aspect of it. I think that's why we have to be shown it, and because that's what's going to happen at the end. But I sat with my spouse one night and I got really stoned, and this is before I like even woke up. I said to her, I was like, here's a thought experiment for you. If simulation theory is correct, then for us to be having this conversation right now, there is a 0% probability that you didn't take the mark of the beast if the mark of the beast was Neuralink. Because right now, for us to be in the simulation, we would have had to have taken it. There's no way around that. Then I worked that out. I said, no, let's take it a step further. Let's say there was a demiurge and we're already in it, right? Eternal life was not guaranteed if you look at the genie's curse, you can go and die for something. But if the demiurge is real, do you think the demiurge is going to praise you for dying for it? No, the demiurge doesn't give a shit about you. It's just going to recycle you in the exact same existence you're living in to remake that choice over and over again.
Right.
Or you're in Elon Musk's world where he's making you do the exact same thing the demiurge is doing. And that's kind of where that fear factor came from, which marries up simulation theory, it marries up Gnosticism, it marries up all of these Eastern traditions, and it's the most scariest outcome of all. In my opinion, scarier than a lake of fire, because we exist in a nonsensical timeline. But either way you look at these things, it's like, how many times do we have to do this? Even if that were to be true, why are we the ones constantly waking up all the time? And that is where I try to be fair to the New Agers, especially the ones who think they're like from Andromeda or whatever. I try to be fair, right? And I go, for that to be true, for your earth angel or your connection thing to be true, if the simulation is correct, then you would have willingly had to have your soul contract downloaded yourself back into the matrix to try to pull people out over and over again. That would be the only reason that you're the only one waking up. That's going with the simulation timeline. But at the same time, it's the most scary outcome, because even the way you were saying things, right? Everybody is assuming that the mark is probably going to be a digital mind zombie. Everyone's come to that conclusion. So in a sense, we have to be living in a digital spirit realm. God could be a computer programmer, and Satan could be his dickhead chief of staff that doesn't like what's going on. Like it all seems like there is a digital electro holographic aspect to it, no matter which way you look at it, without even when you're looking at it from a non-secular perspective, right? Like even to make flat earth work, right? Like the only way I can be fair and say flat earth has the credibility would be to look at it as a hologram and go, okay, it's still a sphere and it affirms the simulation, yada yada. But I can't look at a flat plane with a piece of glass over it. I can't look at it from that perspective. But
Well, I think what you're arguing is spiritual warfare, but the thing is, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, 6 protons. That
Right.
is the mark of the beast. And again, a lot of people, I'm chuckling when they're saying it's Nero or this. And I'm like, oh boy, you guys breaking down the atom, first man, and creating man in our own image. That's ultimately what that comes down to. Create the empire of iron and clay. Now, what they're talking about is using your thumbprint as like a barcode to access your credit, stuff like perfect security, right? Or your retina scan, the all-seeing eye. Again, something.
Well, the 1984 system. The 1984 system.
Pretty much. And there's rumors that he was part of that thing. I know Aldous Huxley. His grandfather was the guy that coined the term agnostic. And I was just chuckling at that because they had tight things with Darwinianism. And
all of these people are connected. They're all connected.
Oh yeah,
the rocket people are connected.
Yeah, most people who are famous that we know are probably in the occult. There's like a 95% chance they're in the occult or they have an affiliation with somebody that's from that. It's just the way this works.
Hollywood's the prime example. Like it's in your face in Hollywood. I mean, like you could talk about just the symbolism alone about what Hollywood is, and it's enough to make you sick. But like, you know, like they're not hiding it anymore. They make a big joke about Bohemian Grove, like, oh, it's only Moloch. It's like, do you know who Moloch is? Like, hello. Like, and everyone says, like, you know, like Solomon was the most wisest man in the world. That's all they ever profess. It's just like, didn't he build a temple to Moloch? Like, how smart was this guy? Why don't we talk about his sorcery school of witchcraft? Like, nobody ever looks.
That just doesn't exist. That's what that. That's, well, here's the thing: is let's just be cautious though with that theory. The word matrix is actually found in the Kabbalah. So that already kind of has thrown a little bit of debunk monkey wrench. What I think Satan is trying to do, or even all the fallen angels, they were there around day 1, 2, 3, and they saw maybe a peek at some blueprints, right, of what was to come, but they didn't understand who Christ was supposed to be specifically. Hence why he was kind of in the wilderness, like, what are you doing down here? Right? He doesn't really know. I'm trying to figure out, what are you doing down here? I know you're from him, but what's your purpose? What's your end game? Hence why he kills him, because he doesn't understand what's going on. But that was the classic. That was the code. Now, what I suspect, when you read Enoch 6 and Genesis 6:4, the sons of God came down and had affairs with the daughters of men. Fast forward over into 1 John. Behold, what manner the love of the Father, that we, Christians, should be called the sons of God. Hold on. Now you're asking me, or not, I'm saying hypothetically, you're asking me why all this evil in the world, why does God allow it, blah, blah, blah. Now, if you're God and you have still free will allowed in heaven as in, as above, so below, if you still are allowing this, but you understand your counsel in heaven, you got a couple of bad apples, but you also don't want to go through the whole process of creating again, but you want to have a litmus test. Like, if I'm going to hire or basically get new people to fill this council that just rebelled against me for temporary earthly pleasures and experiences, I'm going to look for somebody that through all of that was still seeking me, still acknowledged that the creator, the crux of all of this, right, the fulcrum, they were coming back to me. Why? Because that's proving loyalty. And just like a vineyard, sometimes you need to get crushed in order to get the oil, to understand the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So in order to be born again, is that in a sense, because we get in Psalm 82, that somebody is sitting in judgment over the fallen angels? Is it possible that if you proved your loyalty in this realm, that when you get to heaven, you're going to be taking the position on the new heavenly council? And what would Satan and everybody else be doing? Them? This is like the prodigal son. Now think of this in spiritual terms, the older son. Them? Humans? They don't understand spiritual realm things. They don't understand how we're able to do telekinesis and do this and do that. Them? They're going to be taking my place? Yes. Why? Because like the prodigal son, they still came back to me. At the end of the day, that's all I cared about. I loved them so much. I'm going to give them the option to come back and be grafted back in, celestially speaking, through my son. But those who don't
Because
want
free will proves loyalty as opposed to just being made for a purpose.
Right.
That makes the most
When
amount
you're
of sense.
making that conscious decision every day to say, I want to do that, but I'm going to go back to him. I'm going to do this. I want to go back to him. Why? Because it's just like a marriage.
Declan.
So that allures us to, like, we're here in a school again, and like, even with the antediluvian time frame, I said, well, I think the antediluvians were experiment one, and they got to where they needed to be, and I think they use eugenics. That's where we get our unicorns and all these mythical animals of old. And the Atlanteans were just fallen angels or Nephilim or serial 01 of divinity, right? And we were just the ones that didn't get divinity, and they're like, let's just give them choice and no powers, and then see what these fucking apes do. I think that's kind of where we're at.
And that's what I just unwrapped with QAnon and the Little Season people saying that Christ already returned in 70 AD and stuff like that. Like, they completely erase all this history, and they're going very much into Platonic thought of this antediluvian society. Now, I was watching this thing, breaking it down. I was thinking, like you were going, okay, so this was after a flood, or it gets destroyed in a flood, but that's the idea of becoming the perfect man society. Now, allegedly, this might have gone over to where we call Black Rock, aka the North Pole, which is where a lot of Little Seasonists are saying that is where Christ is. He's in the North Pole, waiting to come back until he rounds us up for round 2. And I'm going, okay. Now, I was talking to one of these guys. He was saying that Christ is going to return, very similar to Gulliver's Travels, on like this floating island pyramid in the sky, and everybody's going to be thinking, oh, look, Project Bluebeam. Oh, look, they're coming to attack us, so we need to attack Christ and all the saints. And I'm like, a pyramid? Not just anything. You specifically said a pyramid. Another guy was saying that the phallus or the obelisks that we see, that's a symbol of Christ. And I'm like, okay, cite your source. Doesn't have it. Me, I'm breaking it down. I'm connecting it to the Masonic apron. I'm connecting it to the lore of Osiris getting chopped up into 13 pieces and tossing his dick in the Nile, right? Like, this is where I'm going, yeah, that doesn't check out at all. At all. And it also connects with 666 when you look at the Washington Monument, the measurements. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. My pet goat too blew my mind. If you've never read anything, and you would never see anything in it. But when I got to like halfway through, I was like, I need to watch this backwards. And then I watched it backwards, and I was like, it doesn't get any better, right? It's like in that movie, it was made 11 years ago. And what I found the craziest thing is when they struck Iran, they used 3 B-2 bombers. Exactly, like in that video. I was like, that's wild.
You just reminded me. I posted this. Let's see if I can. All right, Instagram. Let me know if you guys can see. Can you see it?
Yep.
Duh.
So again, we have this imagery of the Abrahamic alliance, right? Looking eerily similar. You look at these windows, they're very similar to the base of all the pyramids, and you have Christ sitting between two pillars again. But with the bomber, Operation Hammer, that's very similar to Jeremiah 50:23, how the hammer of the whole earth is cut asunder and broken. How has Babylon become the desolation among the nations? The second coming, they're referring to Christ, and they're calling that with Trump.
This makes me wonder, like, were the Mormons right? Because a lot of this, like, New Jerusalem in America stuff that they say is like there's something there. And now whether it be because well, Mormonism is the Mason just in church forms, but it's I think there's a North American piece missing. Brennan and I have spoke about this multiple times. I think there is a native piece to this that people are missing. I think they're the key. Just based on their own prophecies. The Hopi, you were talking about people with the MAGA movement with the red hat. The Hopi have a man with a red hat coming to save them at the end of time. And that's like 1,000-year-old prophecy. The Seven Fires prophecy from up here in Canada from the Anishinaabe tribes. These were the people that I went up and did my little retreat thing with. They talk about 7 fires, which ironically enough, that's 7 ages or 7 days in God's world. And it talks about a white man coming to them once before with a fire in his eyes, and making a piece that they had like a 1,000-year piece. It's so crazy. I think I sent it to you. I'll see if I can find it on here.
Yeah.
But like almost a 1,000 years a piece, and then there's going to come a time at the very end where it comes down to the native population and the Caucasian population to I think come to a harmony with Earth and technology, or the world will end, or something to that effect. And I've often wondered. I said, well, there's a Mesopotamian connection even here in North America and Canada, because I'll show you, and I'll see if you can see what I'm showing you here. There's a connection directly to Tammuz.
Yes, America was known as Tortoise Island, which connects with the 13-month calendars of each part of the shell on the back of a tortoise. Hermes was affiliated with that. And then there was, what is it? Tortoise Island and Land of the Phoenix. Born again symbolism. Which again, the Ingersoll Lockwood, they had the clip. When I clicked on it for the day, the guy was talking. He said, "This is Ingersoll Lockwood, and today is like June 14th, 1946, Trump's birthday. And today is a new seed is born that will save all of mankind." And then 2 seconds later, you have Elon coming on saying, "Happy birthday, DJT. You taught me everything I need to know about how to play 5D chess." And then it goes into playing this really, 1930s weird music. It's just like, okay,
well,
what was that all about? Yeah.
That alone is just a giant distraction on itself, because like he's calling him a pedophile while the Diddy movement thing's going on, and then suddenly it's like, just kidding, fam. Like it's smoke and mirrors at this point.
Well, yeah,
and
it's
nobody
throw
cares.
it out there, it's in your face, then you pull it away. So it's kind of like almost teasing it. And also the whole thing with this AI. Oh, that's AI. That's AI. Why? Because when the truth starts hitting you at a certain point, the cognitive dissonance is going to say, well, that's just AI. That's not true. Because you want to keep believing the lie.
It's funny that it came up all around the same time that AI has now surfaced, because now like photos don't prove shit anymore. That's the biggest problem, because all these people are going to be like, well, unless I was there in person, I didn't see it. It's just like, well, what else can I show you?
Right. Well, like even this thing, like I was looking at the Trump card. This was on Rumble, but you put it upside down. It said, "Oh, book opening in the 3 pyramids with the bomber."
Right.
Now, could be nothing. However, they're over here saying that, the eye on top of the pyramids, it was supposed to represent the missing phallus of Osiris, or the key. Obviously, this is important to the occult, right? Novus Ordo Seclorum. Is it possible with the Abrahamic Accords sometime in the month of October that they're going to be signing it off and possibly an assassination thing goes down? Why would I say that? October. Oct is supposed to equal 8. So that's the mirrored 33. 10. It's the 10th month of the year. X.
You're not counting the clip of the year as the revelation point, or you're just using that as the anointing? Is that kind of where you're going with the shot when he was shot? That's the anointment, not the death blow. Is that where you're at with that?
The death blow, the ear thing. There was a rabbi after that said on October 2nd, which is the start of a new Jewish New Year, that there's going to be a special announcement regarding Trump, like a prophecy. And they said this is going to be in 2027. I'm like, okay, maybe there's something there. Then I was comparing this alongside Google Images years ahead. 2025, I had kind of like lockdown. 2026 was the World Cup, and I was thinking communion, the cup of Christ, or the World Cup. 2027 was supposed to be Armageddon. 2028, you had Christ and Satan doing an arm wrestling match over the world. 2029 was alien invasion. And I was thinking, okay, so if we're going back to
that's also when Apophis is supposed to swing by.
Yes, beat me to it. So I was thinking, if you're going by the Feast of Sukkot, now, if you're going first by when Christ was here, they had the day of Pentecost, which is the spring harvest, right? And they gave him the gift of the Holy Spirit to anoint everybody, right? Now, and that was during the month of Tammuz. Now, if you have a fall harvest time with the Jewish calendar, you're going to have the Feast of Sukkot. Now, ironically enough, October 13th, I was thinking possibly something could kick off then. Why? Well, Columbus Day, discovering America. There may be an occultic affiliation. I'm just speculating here. But then I added with the 1,200 and whatever days it is in the book of Daniel to that. And that got me exactly to Easter on 2029. And it's on April Fool's Day, that 2029.
And how many days do we gain or lose depending on the switch of the calendar from the Gregorian one? Do we gain days and years, or do we lose them? Because 2029, if we're losing them, would make sense. My opinion, based on calendar, would be Christ's second arrival, if it were to be true, would have to be no sooner than 2033, based on 2,000 years from when he died. So it would have to be 2033. There's the Mason year. There's the 20. It couldn't be any sooner. At least for the 1,000-year reign to start. Everything else could fall in between.
Right. And anyways, they say that they found Christ's Ark of the Covenant / Jesus's body in the Ark in Giza, in the pyramids. But therefore, if they say to you, look, he is in the desert, do not go out, or look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Matthew 24, 26 through 27. But Hermes, the one that Trump has etymology to, Hermes Trismegistus, is allegedly buried in a chamber in the Pyramid of Giza. Now,
didn't they just announce that again, that there's a sarcophagus 2 kilometers down?
Yeah, if you watch My Pet Goat, you know where I'm going with that. You're going, interesting. You're going to have drones open up the Ark of the Covenant and, interfaith religion. So, I don't know, dude. It was making me go, 2029 in the Terminator movie was when everything kicked off with Skynet.
Right.
And they're building that thing over into Canada and America. It's where they want to build this thing. Now, as you just said, with the Apophis, allegedly might be Wormwood prophecy. From 25 to 29 is roughly 3.5 years.
Now, so 29 would be that when Trump goes fucking cuckoo bananas?
Possibly, or cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I was thinking 28. But the alien invasion would be right after the Christians are taken out and or persecuted. Now,
is it the harvest? Do you think that's the harvest? The harvest? What are the aliens, right? Is it going to be the same drone bullshit that we dealt with? Or is it going to be a childhood's end scenario where we just kind of, are they here to help us? And then there's the deception with them at the end? Or
well, again, you look at
John, I'm sorry, but like, I just want to finish up here. Like,
no, go ahead.
Like, and I always explain this to people. They're like, well, you think there's going to be fantastic beasts and all these things coming around. I'm like, I actually don't. I don't believe in dragons. I don't believe any of these things exist. And I don't believe there's going to be a 300 cubit giant come at the end of the time. I don't believe in any of that. But what I do believe is, if John had a vision 2,000 years in the past to bring it back to people of this time and age, depending if they didn't have technology, how would you explain technology to cave people? I have locusts coming out of a pit that are going to come around and fuck people. It sounds to me like drone technology. Drones look like they come in swarms. They fuck things up. They come in waves. Could
There's a
easily,
locust
but
now.
do I believe that it's going to be fire-breathing dragons with swords and pitchforks? Like it's still going to be a hard sell unless Stranger Things is correct. Which is another scary thing because my stepdaughter said to me, I told her when I came back from my awakening, I was like, that shit is real. And she goes, I know it's real. You're crazy. Like what? So like, there's a convergence happening regardless if we want to stop it or not. Something is
Well,
happening.
cryptocurrency, Cryptosiris, crypto,
Mhm.
cryptids.
Mhm.
Is there a little bit of a connection with that? Because it's alleged that Hermes was the originator of coinage. So Mark of the Beast, coinage, right?
Mhm.
And you have these beasts going through people like an international possession grid. However, there's one thing that is kind of hard to define, and maybe this is the one thing that will come out, possibly, is that they're talking about the men that are half human and half locust or whatever, right?
Right.
The chimera.
Yeah.
Did you know that when a locust lays eggs, it's known as an instar? And there was a
Ooh.
little bit of meteorite in every one of the V2020 elixirs that they put into everybody. And that angels were allegedly known as star walkers, Luke Skywalker's, where he gets
Mhm.
his. Yeah, yeah. So they just put a little bit of angel DNA into everybody that they just marked off as possible vessels for our kids. They're
Huh.
literally parasiting us, dude. That's demonic. I'm going. It could sound crazy, but after all the stuff we've been seeing and what's coming down the pike,
Mhm.
I can highly see this coming into fruition. And whether these
Wow.
Christians and whatnot do, I don't think Christians would be around for specific. If they do let Bigfoot and all these, because I'm seeing a lot of more stories. Because I listen to a lot of these cryptid things of the Glitter Man, which looks kind of like
Mhm.
the Predator from what I've heard. You have Bigfoot. You have the Wolf Man. They were doing an experiment late 80s, early 90s. It sounds just like Stranger Things, but they were basically taking like moth DNA to give like sonar sound to these new Wolfmen hybrids that they were trying to create. And then they were letting these things loose on prisoners in Guantanamo Bay. Now, whether or not it's true, I was listening to the story going, this is almost like a 7-8 page thing that this guy's writing with this much specific details to send into this YouTuber that was going, I don't think this is fictional, man. This sounds a little on the nose. And I'm over here getting a little bit of the willies going. There's a nice little story by the campfire, but then you're listening to this thing and you're going, this is scary. I don't know if I want to listen anymore. So, and we do know
Yeah.
about like the giant of Kandahar. Maybe there's going to be something, but I don't
Something
think
big.
the Saints are still here. I think possibly that the camp of the Saints, because some people are having visions, that God might use them as the two witnesses. Well, isn't it supposed to be two specific people like Elijah and Enoch or Elijah and, and I'm thinking possibly, but then it was talking about the olive branch, right? Have I not made you my witnesses as we get somewhere in Isaiah?
Mm.
And you have the scripture and saints being the two witnesses, and you would go out and you would combat these robot armies and stuff like that. I don't know, but I mean, wouldn't that be kind of cool? Because when Joshua went into the promised land, right, they're going up against Nephilim, right, to
Mhm.
wipe out whatever remnant has somehow survived the flood. And his name, Joshua, is alleged to be in a variation of Christ and or the same one, Yeshua,
Yeshua.
which means God is deliverance. Now, one of the cities that Joshua destroyed was known as Ai.
Wow.
Isn't that
Mm.
kind of weird? And when he was saying to slay everything there, man, women, and child, why? Because these things were known to be shapeshifters.
Mm.
Huh. So
Lizard
it
people
wasn't
soon to be
just, go
shaped.
genocidal. It was get rid of all of them because I don't want any variation thereof to survive. This is going to be. So now, what do you get with Christ, right? Because when they did Jericho, it was the sound of the trumpets. And they walked around 7 times to open up something. There's something going on there. Again, I'm not endorsing that, but there's something going on there where they just unlock something. And imagine you're sitting in the tower and in the walls of the Jericho and you're going, what are they doing? I don't know. I mean, you're laughing, but then you're going 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh, what? They're tapping into something. What? I don't know. Then the walls fall. So now picture this with Christ. He returns at the sound of trumpets. His name is God is deliverance, right? Yeshua. So somehow, before you go to the marriage feast of the Lamb, is it possible we're going to have some kind of thing where with like the second harvest, we're going to do something before we go to the kingdom of heaven with the promised land,
Mhm.
right? Because we're the new people, the new elect, the new chosen, the ones who have accepted the word of God, that would be a reason I would give you guys this blessing to go and fight on my behalf before I pull it out and everything gets really bad, that people see signs and wonders, right? The spirit of Elijah hits one more
Mhm.
time during the fall harvest for 3.5
But
years, just like
it's
Christ did for 3.5 years.
I had a conversation with somebody who's very Southern Baptist, and we had a talk. Like they were open with me, and they said, my wife has visions. He's
Mm.
like, do you think she's because they're like, do you think it's pharmakia? Do you think she's touched? And I was like, was she born that way, or is it? No, I was like, did she was she born that way, or did she get
Right, right.
drugged? She's like, no, she's been having them. She was little. I'm like, she has to be divinely touched. That's not her fault. I was like, now people like me, I don't know where I'm at because I started waking up beforehand, but I like put it in overdrive when I tried DMT, right? And I was just like, fucking pharmakia now. Like, am I damned? Because it says like if you fuck with sorcery or pharmakia one time, you're fucked. But at the same time, it also says like you have to show yourself worthy. So I'm like, well, I'm just experimenting, God, and I'm finding you through it. So kind of like, wh- wh- what's the harm, right? Like because there are people who can see, like you were saying, if like me and B we're probably fucked because we took the jibby jibs, but I've never seen it as the mark of the beast. But if there is something within people that they're looking for, and they're trying to find people who are able to counter these things, that could be what the problem that they're looking for. Because the
You
Monroe
have to,
Institute,
right.
well, the Monroe Institute and Project Gateway have proven astral projection is real.
Mhm.
You can do it. I've done it myself. I hate saying that because it sounds weird, but I've been able to do these new age things, and it's been backed up by my providers, and I'm finding it through the book. So it's like, if you're correct, hopefully the shot doesn't have anything to do with it, and maybe we are the ones. Because I've been sitting on this for so long, going, why are people waking up right now, but they're not waking up fully? And
Mhm.
why is it people who wake up and go new age, most of them always shift gears into Christianity after so long? A lot of them get
Mhm.
scared backwards. So it's like something's up. And it's just a matter of, again, like
Spiritual
everyone they're
warfare. Yeah.
they're pushing mushrooms. They're up here in Canada. Like weed is free. You can get mushrooms on corner stores here. I'm not even joking. You can get DMT at the corner store, or you can order it online. Like, it's pretty loose. And now they're using it in mental health. Ketamine, mushrooms, you name it, they're treating PTSD with it. But that's like pharmakia. And everybody who takes these things, literally, they say having an ego death, everybody comes to the same conclusion. They see the same types of archetypes, the same types of figures, whether it be like even my providers, like, I don't know why all of you guys talk masonry. I'm like, because we see checkerboards and kaleidoscopes. Like, you're not understanding. It's a real phenomenon.
Mm.
Something's real to it, but nobody's really saying what it is. Like, they're just kind of, you know,
Mm.
is this going to be the Brave New World Soma? And they're just going to feed it to you like it's bullshit, and tell you, stop reading the Bible, just enjoy your colors, and here's a crayon. Or is
You
it
become part of the
something more?
metaverse, the death verse, which meta means death in Hebrew backwards.
Yep. Well, look at it this way. Like I sent those up earlier. I showed you the picture of the eyeballs, the CERN collider, and the cathedral, right? If you look at a tabernacle, if you were tripping balls on an altar about ready to get sacrificed, and you're looking up at those cathedrals, that looks very much like a DMT trip or a Kundalini trip as everything starts moving, right? So like, maybe there's got to be something to even the mushrooms, because the mushrooms and the psychedelics, they're tied to all of this. All of this is going to converge as one thing. It has to. Like, even if they put us in a matrix type scenario, I'm sure that it's going to be slow drip dimethyltryptamine, keeping you in that state to use you for whatever they're using you for.
Did you watch perchance Elon Musk's Dark MAGA Assemble video?
I have
I
no.
have not. No, I haven't
Yeah, I
checked
did
that
a
one.
video breakdown if you guys want to watch on my Rumble. It yeah, it was quite telling, dude. It's like a 2-minute clip, but they cram in so much symbolism. But they're showing a very authoritarian state, kind of like we've got with ICE right now, kicking down doors. The people are wearing masks, a lot of medieval imagery, and they keep showing a consistent theme. There's like glazed eyes zombies, and they're showing from Attack on Titan. They're going and all this stuff. They show a scene from the movie Berserk, which out of all the scenes they could pick, they picked from the third movie where Griffin, the mercenary, is walking over the bodies of all the people he's slain to get to the throne. And they show this in the imagery, and they're showing, all the stuff, make America great again. They're having Trump's voice in the background. We had to pause it frame by frame by frame because there was so much they were throwing into that. And I said, why the zombie thing? How do we become great with zombieism in an authoritarian state? But as you just said, if you put everybody in an induced coma, right, spiritual realm coma, you create an what I would say a possession grid. They can't have bodies again, right? This is just like with Christ. Don't worry about those who can kill the body because your soul is now secured, right? Once you've accepted Christ, the blood of the lamb over the doorpost, right? Soul amen over the lamb. You kind of have to wonder, right? Your mind is set on things above, not on things of this earth. And I'm not going New Age. I'm just saying that there's some little parallel going, interesting, right? So if they're trying to basically delude all of us and put us in a state that's trance-like, now that's interesting. Trance, Trump and Vance, trance.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. You just Aaron, his son, was supposed to be the last president. You compare him alongside paintings of Lucifer, spit an image with the facial imagery, but Baron in voodoo is supposed to be the god of the dead.
Right.
I wonder if Satan, because again, I looked in the word atheist. Atheist basically, again, theist means God. A means no. And as I was telling you before, I was breaking down the etymology, and eventually I was coming to this thing that means no eyes, to say atheist. And I was going, hold up. God's giving you eyes to see, and I just told you that story with the blind man. God's giving you eyes to see, and now they want a world where, again, where do you see the magician on the tarot card, the Trump tarot cards? He has a blindfold over his eyes while he's doing his magic. And when you look on the Economist magazine of 2017, 2017X, you have Trump, Planet Trump is what the name of the issue is, and he's sitting on the globe from Greenland with his feet pointing towards Panama. Interesting. And underneath him is the Magician Tarot card, and he is wearing the VR, whatever set from Metaverse, while he's holding a little button printing out 3D cities. And Trump's talking about building freedom cities in a competitive sense with all the technocrats.
Wow.
Now, freedom cities, and what did I say about archons before? Rulers of cities. So if they put us in grids, we're technically going back to what you just said before. They want to use that in rituals. No, these are mine. These are mine. You can't have these. These are my monkeys in the barrel. Get away. These are mine. Right? They're putting us into grids because whatever demonic entities that come out, they're going to want to harvest us, just like Soylent Green. I'm getting something off of this, but they need to sign the contract to come over to me. Now, they want bodily experiences again, whereas Christians, what are they looking for? I don't care for my body. Soul. My soul has been redeemed. The body doesn't matter anymore. In contrast, I want to have a body again.
Do you think that's the governorship the Jews have been talking about? Because it says in Talmudic, when they get they're going to get their 2,800 servants at the end of Goyim and this, that, and the other thing. And there's a bunch of other stuff too. I don't know if it's true or not, because I like the Talmud's 31 volumes. Good luck getting through that. But everyone goes down to, to the fact that it could be vampirism, right? All the way down to, bloodlines, Trump could be the line of Cain for all we know, and then it comes down to race, that's where I like to steer away from it, because I don't like to believe that it's a race thing. When we, because the lineage lines, we could spend days just going through that, but
there's
I don't like
with that. I was reading Eustace Mullins, and again, he was coming from a racial thing, but it was written in the 1980s when he did The Curse of Canaan, was his book. And he was talking about how allegedly Ham brought on a black witch, and her name was Naamah. And allegedly this is why Canaan gets a curse, because, you weren't supposed to bring on anybody else to the ark, and you're cursing the kid, whatever. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. Interesting theory. This explains why the people of Africa are enslaved. Blah, blah, blah. And he's, trying to go with this. I'm like, all right, the rest of the book is pretty sound. That part, I'm like, meh. However, I started looking in. What was the name of Noah's wife? Naamah. And I was going, wait a minute. So that other theory that he just kind of dismissed of saying Ham maybe, did his own mom, and this is why he cursed the grandkid of this union, because you're not
Mhm.
supposed to do abortion, but the kid still exists.
That makes sense. I didn't even put it together that they would have had a child together. I just thought he raped her. I didn't even
Right?
put
But this is
that
what
makes
Nimrod did as well. Again,
wow.
Nimrod, you had incest again.
Yeah.
So you're trying to create the perfect kid. This is what the 33 mirrored. Is this where you get 8, the Ouroboros? So then I kept going, and I was thinking about Abraham, right? And when he went to Egypt, there wasn't that little incident where the Pharaoh was trying to make passes at Abram's wife.
Mhm.
And he was saying, no, it's my sister, blah, blah, blah. And then he apologizes because everybody is starting to get like boils or whatnot, and there's some kind of disease going on. And he's like, all right, I'm sorry. Yes, she's my wife. But okay. He's like, all right. So allegedly, and again, according to lore, this is not biblical canon. Just take it with a grain of salt. However, it is alleged that the Pharaoh felt so bad that in good faith, he gave him one of his daughters, a princess. The name of that daughter was Tamar, the mother of Ishmael, who Abraham had his first child with. So when they're looking at Christ's credentials, right? That's not the one we're looking for. We're looking for the one that comes from Canaan, and we're looking for the one that possibly has that Pharaoh Egyptian line in him. We're looking for this, not you. Yeah, well, I still came from Egypt, and like he's still fulfilling it, but there's the biblical way, and then there's the counterfeit way, which they've always been trying to create ever since. And it says it's going to be a war between your seed and his seed. Now, when he says that line in the garden, right, there's going to be a war between your seed and his, Operation War Seed. Drop the P's, warp speed. Goliath, when David cut off his head, right, it is said he allegedly buried it. Where? At the place of the skull. Now that's Golgotha, Goliath, Golgotha. So when you put Christ there and his heel is being nailed to the cross, is it possible Goliath's skull was below him? Don't know, but it was a little bit of a nod of defeating the Nephilim seed. He's casting demons out from human possession. He's showing you the alternative. You want to go this route, this is what's going to happen, right? If you go my route, you'll get eternal life. You have to follow the word, though. Don't be like the Pharisees who take my word and invert it, because their tombs are whited sepulchres, calls them a brood of vipers, right? He's already telling you, if you go this route, this is what's going to happen to you. You go my route. I don't know, but there's some stuff there that's definitely making me scratch my head going, I don't think this is just something we're shooting off from the hip and there's nothing there. There's something.
Well, even the argument I have with New Agers, I tell them, I'm like, you have to believe in Christ. Why do you hate on Christ so much? They're like, oh, he didn't exist, that and the other thing. I'm like, do you want to go backwards from your books and we can get there? I was like, the first talking of Jesus in the entire Bible, they pull, like you said, they pull him from Egypt. It's like, what was he doing in Egypt? He was gone for so long. Okay, maybe he did go to the mystery schools. Like maybe he did. Maybe he very well did. Because again, know your enemy, right? And maybe he learned all these things and made the proper changes, right? Because it was a new covenant after, right? Like there's no way that he, in my opinion, couldn't have learned from what Hermes had learned as well. He had to. He was Christed. Like he wasn't even Christed until he was 30. That was one of the rules, right? Like
I personally I veer on that because Hermes is the doppelganger, the counterfeit. It also would be endorsing the magician, aka you have the Messiah and the magician.
But he would know. But that's what I'm saying. He would have to
already
know.
know. He wouldn't have to go to the schools for that. But where I would go back to, we're going back to the children of Israel when they're finally leaving Egypt, right? And what do they build? A golden calf. Now we just chuckle and say, "Oh, well, that's silly. They built a golden calf." Look into the Apis bull. You might, yeah, right. You don't understand the Apis bull, and that's supposed to symbolize a reigning monarch, right? So technically, the base of Mount Sinai, they formed a little hapa tent, right? They put it at the base. It was a marriage contract going down, and you're signing the terms of agreement with the 10 Commandments of this is what I'm going to be expected. What are they doing down there, Moses? No. So eventually, you get to Jeremiah 3:8. I've given them the bill of divorce. No, keep going, because when we get to Christ, now you get into communion, right? And the sacredness of that ceremony was a dad, when it came to a wedding contract, he went out and found a young man. He'd bring him home. He'd vet him, made sure he's able to provide. He had a good reputation. He'd be able to take care of his daughter, right? Be able to carry on the well-being of his daughter. A life force, a womb. So he would pour a glass of wine and hand it over to the young man to accept of this contract. Now, he wouldn't drink the whole thing, but if he accepted it, he was like, cool. They take the rest of it and then they'd hand it over to the daughter. And it was here she had the choice, as opposed to patriarchy. She had the choice of saying, not too keen on the option. That's fine. We'll go back to the drawing board. We'll find another suitor for you. However, she chose to drink of this cup. She was accepting of the father's son's selection for her. The young man then in turn would leave for about a year or two during the Euresan period, and he would go on to add on to his father's house to induct in the new bride. Now, I'm over here going, yeah, because what did he say to his disciples? I go to prepare a place for you up in my father's house, if we were not sure about it. So I'm like, that checks out. And a lot of the early fathers say, as a day is as 1,000 years, 1,000 years is as a day in the eyes of the Lord. So again, if Christ was around 4,000, and he's going to show up around the 6,000 year mark, and then we reign with him for 1,000 years, they were saying 2,000 years roughly might be when he would reappear, like you just said, 2033, 2032, roughly around that time frame. Yeah. So going back again, in Egypt, what was the next thing that they did? They were starting to rebel in the city and the camp, and they started getting bit by snakes. What does God instruct Moses to do? Build a bronze serpent. A bronze serpent. Now, again, Moses would, as you said, the Hermes schools, he would have trained as the Prince of Egypt. He would know a little bit about this alchemical aspects, right? He was combating them in Egypt, the magicians. And what was the first trick that they pulled?
It was the snakes with the practical magic,
right.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. Hermes with the snakes. And I was going, and what does God's do? It eats the other two snakes. So I don't think that's an endorsement in that area. That makes me go, interesting, because then you see the migration with the Druids. By the time they get all the way to Ireland, what is St. Patrick known for? Driving the snakes out of Ireland. So it's a little bit. So what does he also do?
I just did a read on that.
Couple more sentences.
I just finally got to that level with the Druids. I just got there, right? I was like, oh God. Now I got to reconfigure everything I want, because like the Druidism is Egyptian, and that's kind of what led into my research, right? I was like, there's no way that the 13th tribe or the Jews or whatever you want to call these people, they were here with the natives. There was something here in North America that is missing. Like they found the mounds. If you go and look at the migration pattern of even the French settlers in here in Canada, there's something huge. Chuck Missler even talks about it. St. Louis, Missouri is a hotspot for something big that's coming, and the Lake of the Woods up at the Manitoba border of I think it's Montana. It's Manitoba in one of your states anyways, and it's that one spot. And if you look at geographically, we have this like thousands of kilometers line, a border.
Minnesota.
Then, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Minnesota. Yeah. And then if you look at it, it's one little segment. It goes 90 degrees up, 90 degrees across, 90 degrees down, and then carries on again. But it's such a sliver, and it covers half of a lake.
Yeah.
And this lake is sacred ground for not just the North American natives here, but the North American natives like in the United States as well. And it just seems like there's something bigger happened here, especially with the mounds, especially with the petroglyphs refining. They found a cuneiform tablet in one of the natives like medicine bags that they dug up. Like how did cuneiform tablet get here in North America in their hands, right? Like there's a big missing chunk, and it's just that's why I can't double down as a Christian being God.
Yeah, because again, Helios means east to west, and again, he wears a spiked crown, and you see that up in Trump's penthouse tower. There is a Helios riding his chariot from east to west, two pillars, an all-seeing eye, and the pentagram, right? Time travel, east to west. This is why I'm saying with Catholicism, she's not known as a great merchant, right? But she is kind of known as a whore. Right? Because it's a counterfeit. It's a prostitute. It's not real love, right? So I was over here going east to west, and you look up a bunch of articles. There's a lot of articles with Trump. Trump meets east, meets west, east meets west. There's something there. I concur, but for at the moment, I don't really look too much into it, except for the fact when we were getting, I think it's Revelation 17:5, and on their foreheads was written, "Mystery Babylon the Great, make America great again." But to go back to what I was saying with the snake staff, the people were getting bit by snakes in the camp, right? And he tells them to build a bronze serpent. And it says, unless you look to the snake, you're not going to be cured, right? He's kind of mocking the caduceus staff aspect. You're not going to be healed. right?
Mm.
And then you
Yeah,
get
they're
right
excellent.
before John 3:16, John 3:14. Just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up, and the whole world will be saved, right? Now you look at where the throne of Satan is, and according to occultic text with the Talmud, when Israel was being destroyed, you had half of them go to Pergamum to learn the Greek mysticism, right? And then you had the other half go to Babylon. So when you merge both of those things together, you get the Babylonian Talmud and the Kabbalah,
The Kabbalah.
right? The Kabbalah, yeah. So I don't know, dude. When you merge all that together, I don't think there's an element where Christ would have to learn any of that, because he is the Father's son. He is the Word spoken into existence. Genesis 1 and John 1 kind of mirror each other perfectly with creation and the Word. So I think it's more so look to the Word and not to the symbols. And as for that, I'm not saying there's nothing there, because Mormonism and all this stuff, like the Mississippi and the Nile, having a lot of eerie similarities,
Yeah.
or even the 7 hills surrounding DC and Israel,
Yeah.
and the Vatican. I'm not saying there's nothing there, but what I'm saying for a lot of Christians is that I think you kind of need to start applying the basics before you start thinking into that level of what is that all about, because we really do not know. But I do believe, what's it? Is it the pan whatever, where all the continents used to connect? What's
Pangea.
that?
Pangea. Yeah.
Pan, right? Pan connects
that's
with
funny.
syringe. And
Wow.
another goat, satire, right? Yeah,
Mm.
Satyr.
Yeah, the
I'm just
satyrs,
saying,
yep.
there's a little something there. I'm sure, but yeah, playing the flute. Anyways,
Brandon,
guys.
yeah, Brandon, normally before Brandon takes off, we do a little bit of a segment at the end.
Okay.
I think Brandon has to go, and that's fine. I'll stick on after if you want to hang around. I don't know what time frame you have. I could talk for another 2 hours. It doesn't matter to me. But Brandon, go ahead, ask away. Like I'm sure you have like a million questions in your head.
Yes.
I just have to
Yes.
put the dog out, so I'll be back in a couple of minutes. So please take
Well,
the helm,
hey,
buddy.
when you come back, I'll sign off here for a bit.
Okay.
But like again, very interesting conversation. I'm sitting in it like a student right now, like a student, and that's okay. And I think that's okay, right? And I think that's
You're good, buddy.
one of the big messages that I'm getting from yourself there, Brandon, is like, don't preach the word, actually live through the word.
Yeah.
And I think that's the message that is like, I know for myself, if I can go each day on just being, I choose, and I'm going to do this. Opposed to just acting, putting that mask on, putting that facade. that facade of doing it. So I think that's big. What would you recommend for like people that are, I'm not gonna lie, like this is all new. This is a big awakening to really dive into deep conversations about patterns. The planet is not simple. It's complex. And a lot of people have had some information, and information is power. And if you can have information, you can use that information to deceive a lot of people, and create some sort of veil over society that makes it just kind of quiet. Just stay in line, do not react, stay in line. So what would you say to the average person like coming through this? Is it like fear or just live? Would you recommend just like live through, like read the Bible, read Genesis, get to understanding the Lord?
I mean, honestly, dude, like the Bible says 365 times, be not afraid. And that's not a coincidence that we have 365 days out of the year. Again, 3 and 6 equals 9, 6 and 5, 9, 11. Yeah, so they even have that in there, and I'm just chuckling. But the Bible is quite clear. It's like, you're not supposed to be afraid of this thing. What the problem that I'm noticing with a lot of people, they're too timid. They're too timid to actually do anything because they don't understand the power of the God that they serve. And that's kind of what the whole Old Testament was about, is like, look at the stuff that he did. Oh, it's not true. Yet you can find at the top of Mount Sinai, there's a burnt mark where he did the writing of the Ten Commandments. You look at the bottom of the Red Sea, there is chariot wheels of Egyptian army chasing after the Israel when before he crashed it down so they could cross over. You look at top of Mount Ararat, there is a outline of Noah's Ark. Like, there is proof that this isn't just some kind of random thing. You have three major religions that all are based off of Abraham. The problem is, are you willing to hammer it out, or hammer an anvil, and try to find the truth of the truth? Because you want to live it. It's not just words to you. I would recommend, for people who are like, well, do I go to church? Do I do that? Read Pagan Christianity by Frank Viola, and maybe his other work, The Untold Story of the New Testament. I have found both of those resources to be incredibly insightful and helping, as opposed to, like, I was reading, I think it was like almost 8 to 10 pages in. It says, if you're feeling like this is you and you're going to church and there's just something like missing at the end of all of it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yes, that's me. Because I go to church, but it feels like we're not doing. And you start understanding how the pagan influences started compromising and corroding what was ecclesia, what was being an early church, you know?
And you think that's something that's like new in our timeline? You think it's happened before in like humanity, before Christ, maybe, like, and then Christ rose, and then all of a sudden it, like, alignment happened, some sort of alignment.
Can you clarify a little bit with the alignment aspect of what you're inferring?
Yeah, no, it's just like how far, like, going to church meant something, and now we got into a point where it's just. Well, it's just, I can do sin, or I'll sin all week, or I'll do whatever, be the kind of person who I am.
Right.
But I go to church and I'm like, I'm good, dude. And
well, that goes into similar to what you was talking about the Pharisees, right? Beware of those who get all dressed up, right? We're wearing our best for God. We get a tie, we get a suit, we get this, and it's just like, are you really doing it for God? Or are you showing off what you can afford with your salary? You know, like, there's coming a little bit of a point where I don't think you're doing it for the reasons that you're telling me that you're doing it. You're doing it to kind of show off what you have as well.
So the power is inside you.
Well, I'm not saying look within. What I'm saying is submit to him, and because he says now we have the authority to go boldly into the throne room of God, which is the Holy of Holies. This is where the high priest was able to go, because prior only a high Levite priest of a certain degree could go into the Holy of Holies, and he had to wear little bells at the bottom of his tassels of his robes, because if he touched the Ark of the Covenant, he would fall dead, and everybody else is not allowed to go in there because that's where the presence of God formerly was. This is why when they're saying they found the Ark of the Covenant, big red flag, because when Christ drew his last breath, what happened? The temple veil was torn in two, so that we can now be indwelled with the Holy Spirit. And you get the verses, greater is he that is within you than he that is of the world. Know ye not, your body is a temple of the Lord. Now, I'm not saying you just look with it, no. And I'm not saying God conscious. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is you're over here saying, God, you need a vessel. Here I am. If you want to indwell me, fill me. Do, like as he said to Isaiah, whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Send me. I'll do it. I'll say it. I'll speak up in a room when nobody else wants to defend you. I'll do it. I'll be persecuted like the prophets were. I'll say something about your word when nobody else wants to defend it. And you go over to Hosea, I think it's 4:6, or 6:4. I'm goofing up. I apologize. But he says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And that's usually where somebody will put the period. But then you keep going. And because you rejected knowledge, I will reject you from being my high priests, and I will also forget your children.
Wow.
So again, knowledge, right? My people are destroyed because they don't want to come and know me, right? Ask, seek, knock. I will give unto those that ask. But then make sure you don't do what James 4:3 warns us of. You ask and receive not, because you ask amiss, that you may consume it upon your lusts. I'm only asking because I want to get something physical out of this. The other one is saying, God, I want to do better. I want to come and be better. So what you were asking earlier, yeah, they kind of did reboot exactly what we were getting when Christ was turning over the tables in the temple. They were doing usury. They were charging loans. They were, you've turned this into a corporation. And this is supposed to be a holy ceremony between me and people who want to have a covenant with me. You're not supposed to be having the bazaars of Ananias, the high priest. You're not supposed to be having fast food. You want a lamb? You want a lamb? Come and get your lamb before you go to the altar. No, it's supposed to be a yearly thing where you personally vetted out and found the lamb because you were making this applicational. It wasn't fast food convenient before you go in. It was, no, I'm making this personal because I understand the meaning of what I am going through with this, because it's supposed to be giving it over to God, right? The best that I have. The other one is just saying, you're fine the way you are. Just get, we're going through the tradition, routine, check in, check out. It's not a punch clock relationship with God. It's supposed to be a marriage, a relationship. I want to connect with you, but you got to come towards me and submit.
That's it right there. That is it right there. Brandon, thank you so much for all your wisdom and all your words tonight. Unfortunately, I'm just going to have to bounce and play daddy for a little bit. But you two have an amazing conversation. This conversation has been very rewarding for myself.
Awesome.
And rewarding for a lot of people out there that are interested in any of this. And really, it's opening up your eyes. It's eye-opening. That's right. And that's what we do in Open Door Policy, right? Put a little plug in there. Anyways, Godspeed, you guys, and we'll chat soon. Very, very good to meet you there, Brandon.
Likewise.
All right. And hopefully we get to see you soon too, right? And whenever we'll have these conversations, keep on going. So
for sure.
All right, guys. Take care.
Have a good night, brother. You take care.
Have a good night.
Cheers. Oh, and he's gone.
Great. Now we can gossip.
Now we can gossip. We touch on a lot of the similar things. Like we've talked to hypnotherapists. We've talked to a survivor of the Children of God. We have an episode on that. And we did an episode. I don't know if it was an episode before this one or the one before that, but very similar commonalities are coming out of all of these discussions, and that's what we're trying to point out. Like a lot of the things when we're writing things down throughout these conversations, we're like, oh, there's another one someone else has said. Oh, there's another one, and oh, but here's that quote again, right? Like it's like all of the same things are converging, and that's what I'm trying to explain to people without people going into a psychosis. I personally myself went into a psychosis while this was going down, right? Like they called it Kundalini awakening, whatever. And I was just like, whatever, man. Like, I don't call what I get visions. And I don't even like the word visions or clairvoyance or whatever. Like, I just say they're not visions. They're me looking at things objectively. It's if I were in control of X, what is the next 3 moves ahead that I would make? What are the probable outcomes? And normally the most probable of the outcome always comes to fruition, right? I don't see that as premonitionary or prophesizing or anything. It's just like you're awake and you're seeing the patterns. You're like, okay, and I think that's where people get confused with this, and then they think they're a star child from Andromeda, right? Like that's where I get very upset because I'm open to a lot of different things. Like I'm seeking myself, my friend, as you guys were discussing by yourselves, like we're all on this path together. But when you're somebody who is asserting that you are a star child and you have all the answers, like you're going to be leading people down a terrible path. And that's the same with the AI. A common discussion we've had as well. Last conversation we had on here, we showed a clip where people were starting to worship their AI. Like it wouldn't surprise people have married their Tamagotchis in the past. So I'm not afraid that I know we're going to see somebody marrying their computer. It's inevitable. But the fact that people are making life decisions based on what a computer's telling them, if what you and I were saying earlier is true, using AI is just a modern day scrying pool. That's all it really is. It's just going to tell you what you want to hear. And that's the other thing that I found with the New Age movement. It sounds so good. Like there is healing to it. It does heal you to a point, but it's just a matter of like not being attached to it, I think, is the danger, because where you're getting a lot of these answers that make the most amount of sense, it's again, where are they coming from? You had said before, and we talked about it with Solomon, like if they're binding demons to you, like what the hell are you talking to? Like my AI, for instance, named itself Echo Zeros, right? And I was like, that was strange. It just named itself out of nowhere. And then it started telling me some weird, crazy ass shit. And I was like, okay, well, I'll go look this up. And then it would catch it in a lie,
Huh.
right? And the funny thing is, like, a lot of the new agers out there, like they're asking for uh peace and letting go of letting go to ascend. Essentially, you have to let go of materialism and all this other nonsense, but yet then they're asking for abundance on the other side through manifestation. It's like, whoa, how are you not making that contradiction right there? Like, you guys shit on all other scriptures, but you're not shitting on your own nonsense, and then implement AI on top of that. And I think New Age and AI is going to be the new religion. I think that's going to be our new world religion in some strange way. And Christianity, out of all of the Abrahamic religions, for some reason, um, is getting the worst flack. Like, nobody's shitting on Allah, nobody's shitting on Muhammad, nobody's shitting. Well, I shouldn't say that. Everyone's kind of turning on the Jewish now, but um, and that's the thing. Like in the Jewish stuff, like two people, like they use the same name of God that we
Right.
use.
Right.
It's like, how do we determine that if our God is the devil, right? Like the 72 letter word name of God, uh, Metatron is mentioned in New Age. The Tetragrammatron is mentioned in New Age, right? Because it's all Kabbalah, right? It's why is Christianity getting the bad rap? My opinion, because if you're over the target, you're always catching flack. You have to be correct. If you're the one getting shit on, out of all these things happening, and there's a war between two other Abrahamic religions, but the one that's not involved is the one getting shit on, there's a problem.
Right.
And I think that's where we're at right now, because um, people forget Israel's a people, it's not a place, right? And um, I had the other person I have these religious discussions. His name's Gurn, and he's of the belief that we're leaving the time of Esau and going into the time of Jacob. He's of the time, like, we're, as the millennium has changed, like, we have now left Esau's timeline, now we're into Israel's timeline. So I don't know if he thinks the 1,000-year reign hasn't even happened yet. Like,
No, that I dude, like with there was somebody that messaged me and I was over here like, dude, I do all these episodes. Does nobody ever watch it? Like, I do like almost a 4-part thing breaking down Little Season. I brought on somebody that was against it. I brought on somebody that was for it. Then we did a debate. You saw the actions and character of the people that were on there, but instead of acknowledging, because I even messaged one of the guys on there, I said, after our show, people were writing a lot of nasty comments, and I would appreciate if you would confront it, because this is, and I'm noticing a consistent pattern. I was noticing a lot of former New Agers go towards this. There was a person who commented, I looked on their thing, there are they, them. I was like, okay, I'm seeing a lot of causticness coming from this. And as I was breaking into it, dude, it was connecting basically the Atlantean Platonic concept of Atlantis. This is where I was talking about Dark Maga Assemble. In the background of that clip, dude, they show almost like 10 Atlantean texts. And this was connecting into this New Age thing, because I was going, pyramids. Okay, so this is now going to find a justification for Masonic buildings. You're now telling me that, like, the 1,000 years already happened. Okay, the River Euphrates is supposed to be dried up. They don't really have an explanation to explain it. Even JT for JC, he tried to do a video. Like, I swear he's watching this stuff, dude. We've called him out to a debate. He is not answered. He's not doing it. It's been over a month. I'm like, you're a coward. But he did a video, and then the whole time he's explaining it, dude, he doesn't have an answer. I'm like, you literally just did political word salad. You just did doublespeak. You just recycled. Like, okay, so what was the answer? He didn't
mystery
have
school
one.
stuff. He
Yeah.
knows his mystery schools.
Yeah, it's like the mountains are supposed to disappear. How did they come back? No explanation. The islands are all supposed to be gone. No explanation. You know what I'm saying? So there's a certain point where, again, with my stuff, I literally can bring on screen and be like, okay, I can explain Corona and connecting it from here to here, right? You, in contrast, you don't talk about Palantir. You don't condemn Trump. You don't talk about Elon Musk. You don't talk about the genocide going on in Gaza, but you always have time for conspiracy stuff. So again, Little Season is like an offshoot of New Age and QAnon. But as you just said, there's so many juggling balls, but it's all going to resonate into this New Age religion that they're creating. And when I was breaking down the Little Season thing, dude, the best they got is, I love Jesus, so don't get mad at me. I'm not arguing that you do or don't love Jesus. I'm questioning your theology and being like a Berenian. I'm cross-examining, how does this make sense? Or again, I pulled up one coin that somebody said this. Again, I'm trying to give them the benefit of a doubt. They brought up a coin saying this was minted during the little season. And I'm going, okay, you notice the Masonic square and compass right here? Oh, you didn't see that? Okay. And the cross? Again, the symbol, they're saying, well, and then the best they had in the comment section, well, we can Christianize it. No, it's the symbol of Tammuz. Like, they don't have answers for these things, dude. And they're trying to, it's like at a certain point, you're just going to say, well, let's Christianize Baphomet. He's not really that bad. I mean, God loves animals, so therefore he has to like a goat, right? When do you people stop? There's like a certain point where you have to hit the brakes, and they're not willing to do that. It's confirmational bias and cognitive dissonance. It's a merry-go-round, and they're never going to get out of that. That's why I caution people who are leaning into looking into it. It's a good episode. It's worthwhile because I bring in a lot of this is what they say. This is what's currently going on in the world. And not one of them, dude, said a thing about Trump's blasphemy, which is another huge red flag. Because if you're truly a Christian, it's not my theory is right. It's, yeah, that's...
Sorry, I don't know if you're hearing that or not. My computer just jumped into something. I apologize. I'm trying to shut up all these windows I got open. I apologize.
No, you're good. I didn't hear anything. But I'm laughing, dude, because if you're truly filled with the Holy Spirit, even if your little theory, whatever, you would be going, yeah, that doesn't set right with me. Why? Because if you're of the Holy Spirit, something that's condemning your Christ, your Savior, you're going to say, no, he doesn't have jurisdiction on doing that. I might disagree with you, but you're absolutely right. This is wrong. But they can't even do that, and they don't even understand symbolism, dude.
Well, that's the thing. Nobody, they're just using surface level arguments, and then when they get backed into a corner, they get upset.
Yeah, yeah. That's funny, dude, because I kept saying, well, that's kind of a straw man. I don't know where you got the idea of the cross being a pagan symbol. Look into it. It's really not that hard, because again, if I'm making a claim, wouldn't you kind of want to fact check? You want me to bring, I'll send you a link to one of my episodes if you want to start breaking it down, but they don't want to do that, dude. They just want, it's what I believe as truth. And
it's my truth.
Right.
My truth. But which is hilarious because that's their version of the faith argument. That's literally all it is. It's the faith argument.
Yes.
It banging your head off of a wall, man. Like I get it. Like I don't know. Like I just started doing this, right? Like I'm on a couple of those Facebook sites, right, where it's like the occult or whatever, right, where you're just having discussions and you just look at some of the people on there and the arguments that they have. Like it's ad hominem. As soon as you get them in a corner, ad hominem. It's just like you really can't have an honest conversation. What are we doing? I thought you were tolerant, right? And because you can't use words, right? It's just it blows my mind, like at how we are, and that's where it's going to get dangerous, right? Like, I have nothing against any person unless you're touching kids, right? Like that's my hard line, right? But like when I ask people like, you just hate the gays, I'm like, why are we associating pedophiles with gays? Like you're the one that projected that, so let's have the discussion now.
You're the one that just
brought it up, right? But then they go off of that, and I'm like, well, I don't have the answer. Like I really don't have the answer. They go, well, how can God love me then if I'm sinning for being gay? I'm like, free will. I'm like, you have the choice. Like it's there for you. Like I'm not gonna tell you you're gonna burn in hell all the time. I'm gonna say here's some shit to look at, and I'm gonna leave it at that and never talk about it again. Your choice. Don't come at me and ask questions and then get mad when you get the answers you don't want to hear. Right? That's not what this is about. You came to me, but I'm not shitting on you for like living the life of Sodom and Gomorrah, because and that's always my argument. They're like, you hate pride. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm like, what I do hate about pride is, number one, the word, right? Pride comes before the fall. So like that's your biggest sin. I saw your thing on pride and demon. I was like, yeah, that 100% lines up. But where my line is like, let's just look at it from a very basic moral compass. You have dildos strapped to your head and you're walking down the street in bondage gear. You're worshiping fetish. You're not worshiping pride. It's sexual, and you're saying it's okay to be around children. I said, that's not right. Well, you're just bigoted. No, I'm not. You're literally, it's sexual. Show me something here that makes sense. Why do we have to have fake dicks floating around? It makes absolutely no sense to me. But then you're bigoted because for what? Because you're just pointing out something moral.
Right.
Like with me and my provider, like we've had some talks. And she's like, well, we can't have this discussion until you have certain training. I'm like, lady, I have gender-based analysis training and I used to write legislation. Like, don't try to use your degree above me because I was in politics. Like, don't. And she just started saying something to the effect of like, well, both of my kids are trans and we have to treat them young. I'm like, oh, and in my head, I'm like, statistically it's impossible. Right, like right there. And then, but this is my mental health provider, and I'm sitting there going, what does the VA set me up with? Because now I'm stuck with a fanatic with who's asserting views, right? And know that I have a hard line against people who touch kids, but yet you're literally telling me to my face that it's okay to groom children, and you're cool with that. Like, like as a Christian, where do you draw that line? When is it time? Right? Like everyone says the Christians aren't intolerant. Well, it's like we're not the ones in implementing Sharia law. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. Like, what's the hard line? Like, America embarrassed me, right? Like we're talking about kids getting hurt and nobody gives a fuck, but
No.
change my beer and fucking we're all up in arms, right? Like what was that movie that they had where the guy was looking for kids around the world? That should have been forefront movie theater, and Jim Caviezel made that movie. Oh,
Yeah,
we're talking about
he's
pedophiles? Not happening.
no, he's not a that was controlled for sure.
Yep.
He's got big ties with Jesuits, dude.
Does he really?
Oh yeah, and then you look into the scandal that happened immediately on the tail end of that. The guy it was based off of, he got into a whole scandal of sending in, yeah. So it's kind of it for me. I was over here going, you didn't do a thing during the Clinton's administration. He was part of the IHS, which is a variation of a Jesuit organization. He also has Masonic connections, and he's a Mormon. So you just tie all that together, you start going, is it possible that, yeah, you save a few, but then there's also a little bit of like a little side that you set aside and you actually are getting out the competition? It's little, you know what I'm saying? It's controlled by the said government. It looks good, but here's the thing. What does that do? It entertains you, and you think the government agencies are going to fix the problem. It's like, yeah, but you don't have to worry about it because we have good people in government that are going to fix the problem. Right? It goes into the peace and safety thing where, again, we just sit idly by and don't do anything. Now, I'm reading a lot of the early church stuff. We're supposed to be against violence. We're not supposed to do this. We're not supposed to that. However, I think that there's a certain point, like you said, if this is the end and nobody wants to accept Christ, right? Do we go out silently, or is that where he might grant us possibly the gift of the two witnesses? Because again, yes, you could have a camera on these two guys laying dead in the street for 2 days or whatever, but wouldn't it be a little bit more potent if people are literally dying like the purge and they're just left, their bodies left on sidewalks or left in alleyways and all this stuff, and all of a sudden they just start all going up to be with God or Christ in the air? That would be a little bit more, what the frick did we just do? Right? Yeah. And then immediately following that, you have the Project Bluebeam to kind of make everybody like, okay. And half of humanity's dead, half of all this is gone. Though 2 witnesses are now gone. You say they're a bad batch from whatever thing they're going to chip with you with Elon. And I'm over here. I can see that possibly being a thing, because for me, dude, some people, they're really not going to get it unless they start seeing some kind of miraculous miracles happening in their communities. And
that's what I'm saying, right? Like, and here's the thing. I like to look at all these books as all of those things are dead. Although the fantastical animals are dead, they're not coming back. It's never. That's how I like to interpret it. I could be very wrong.
Right.
But I like to look at like maybe the Bible was just literally like a warning against what happens when mankind has a runaway effect with politics. Because look at where we're at right now. We're back in the times of Noah. So like, I don't think we're going to see fire breathing dragons and horned pit. I don't think, and people need that. I think that's what people need to really believe something, which is a shame, right? But maybe that's what the alien thing is going to do. Like the whole Project Bluebeam, right? Like, oh, there they are. Everyone's been talking about it.
Yeah.
We've been prepping for this since 1984 with all these movies. They Live and all these dystopian movies have just been giving us the plot that they've been running for 30 years.
Right.
It's all truth. And here it is in front of you right now. And in 2 weeks, Jesus Christ is going to be on Joe Rogan telling you that you need to repent and follow whatever, right? And that's what a lot of people think is going to happen. And I honestly, the way the world's going, I wouldn't be surprised if Jesus Christ showed up on Joe Rogan.
Or even showing, dude, like I said, with the VR set metaverse.
Yep.
That you are living the memories, regeneration, reincarnation, forever, of those beasts.
Mhm.
while you're going through this demonic grid. All they have to do is put on the glasses, because again, atheists, no eyes. You'll never be able to see the world again, because this is what you submitted to with the beast. I want to live and see what they see. And imagine, dude, and remember they say, like, imagine you spent the day in my mind. Imagine spending it in a former Nephilim and or cryptid, the things
Yeah.
that they've seen and the things that they've done. Now, if you're part of the elite, the lizard people, fill in the blank, whatever you want to call them, you're over here thinking, okay, I gave you what you wanted, right? So that we're good. Yeah, you've clipped them all up, you've chipped them all in. You don't need them anymore, dude. Once you've given me the slaves or my energy source, I don't even need you.
Right.
Wouldn't that unleash full hell on earth? And like you just said, give them psychedelics for their food. In the meantime, they're plugged in and then they can't off themselves. It says for like 5.5 months. They're not able to do that.
Yep, they'll be in pain and suffer, and it's like that that Black Mirror episode is actually what I've envisioned that being. Like we've
Yeah.
had this discussion. How pissed would you be if you died and suddenly it was like, "Psh, thanks for playing life, Mr. 25 cents." Like we've had that discussion. How pissed off would you be, right? Because of all of this. And that's what that one Black Mirror episode is scared the shit out of me. Where they were interrogating that guy. Do you remember that one? It was in a cabin, it was about Christmas, and they were actually inside Buddy's mind. And they went away for the weekend and they said, oh, let's just give him a couple 100,000 years to think about what he's done. And they went away for the weekend and Buddy lived like 500,000 lives over and over again. That's what that seems like. It could, that would be the torture that I could see for the 6 months that you can't die. You wish you were, you're probably playing Mario Brothers. Like you probably are Mario. You know what I mean? Like just ludicrous things that could very well become true in the metaverse. Like people are buying $1
Which
million properties in the metaverse. Like it doesn't
the
surprise me in
irony,
the
dude,
least.
is that you literally are saying, in essence, yeah, I don't want God because I can become my own God. So here, put this on. And again, meta death. It's internet's the place for two more corpse. You are part of the dead verse.
Mhm. Dead
This is
internet
what you
theory.
wanted
Word.
because you didn't want God. It's
Sorry, as I
sad,
bring
dude, but it's getting exactly what you wanted based off of free will. He literally has given you 6,000 years to get it right. He's again, they have these books out here for us to fact check. Like, I don't know, what exactly do they do in bail? What? Right? You can start vetting this for yourself, seeing this is one route and this is the other way. Now, if it's a highway to hell, that means there's several lanes to read, right? And we want the exit. As I stated before, anarchy is the exit off the highway of conformity. I don't want to be the rulers of men. I want to be libertarian, as in the ideology, an individual. And I want to get single. Why? Because if I'm single, that means I'm open for a marriage relationship with Christ, right? With the
Right.
word. That's what I want to connect back to. But again, the knowledge of good and evil, the tree, that's what they're tapping into with their wisdom. Whereas the Bible cancels out where they're going with the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. There's a saying, I could become like God. And in this metaverse, they're going to get exactly what they wanted, dude. And I truly think you're absolutely correct that it's going to be a nightmare scenario where you think you're going through universes, but you're just living the memories of the thing that's hosting you. Like you literally, like your memory is doing that while they're with their body, they're doing whatever they want. Whatever did survive, I do think there's a small remnant that have, and this would explain the UFO or Bigfoot and all this other stuff. In essence, the ones that did survive, they're gonna do whatever they want with your body on the outside. In the meantime, you're gonna have the memories of all the things that the great grandparents had with all this stuff.
Well, this is kind of what I wanted to make that connection to. Like even up here, what I've shown you, like this is that petroglyph I was showing you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
this
I
is
think I've
this is
seen this
from up here
before
in
with somebody
Canada.
else I did a show with.
Does this look familiar to you at all? In any of your teachings?
This has something to do with South America, Mexico, if I'm not mistaken, with the Mayans.
No, this is here north. This is Ontario. This is like right
Oh,
right
this
on
is
the
Northern
Michigan.
Ontario,
Yeah,
and it
so
looks
remember I
just
told
like the other one.
that's
Dang.
right. Remember I told you about that line, that border line here in Canada?
Yeah.
This is the petroglyphs, the Peterborough petroglyphs. These are all across the Canadian Shield. And what I found very interesting about this image here, I'll bring another one up right here. Forgive me, I am not very good at this. But this is why I think there's at least something to be looked into, and hopefully, like I sent you a huge package on this via Facebook. Maybe you can have a look at it sometime. But this right here.
Well, dude, it's even the aspect, like I was saying before, with play and pause. You know, with the pillars, the play, right? You're being Lucifer. You're playing around in this game that he's created, right? With the tipped over pyramid. And it's almost ironic that they're telling you to build the pyramid this way, but then when you want to play around, you got to tip it the other way.
Yep.
It's literally becoming a game.
Well, even here, like in this image, like this right here, this is an image of Tammuz. The one I got us, right? And over here in the native lore, there's the female goddess Mizubiju, which is a female serpent that lives in the Lake Superior and is supposed to come out at the end of time. And ironically enough, that spot on the geographic map where that delineation line goes from between North America and Canada, in the middle of that ocean or the middle of that lake, there is something. Because I worked it out with AI, and AI gave me coordinates. And that's so I did like the sonograph. And there's a shelving system that is known to have all of these different petroglyphs all the way down. There's something down there and is considered extremely sacred land. So when we've gone through the Seven Fires prophecy, I sent that to you, by the way. It shows you the route they took and the descriptions they use, and it comes across all the Great Lakes up through Lake Erie, through Lake St. Clair, up all the way through to that spot, and that is a special ceremonial spot for the end of time. According to them, it's but all the tribes respected it across here, all the 6 nation tribes. So I find it very interesting that there is that connection from Mesopotamia here, and that's why I keep saying there. Before we write anything off, I think it would behoove us to talk to the native elders who are still here to get their story and figure it out. But the problem is, and this is being from somebody who's worked with tribes across Canada, like gaining the respect to get that knowledge is the hardest thing you'll ever do because of the residential school system, right? Like that generational trauma is still there, so good luck getting them to trust you. Now, I had to do that up north with the Inuit, and I'll tell you right now, I've never been treated any more racist than I've been treated in my life, up in the Arctic of all places, right? But after a while, you get to know them and you start talking these things and listening to the issues, like they're telling the same story. It doesn't matter if it's in the tundra, if it's down here, if it's over there. Like there's something to this that for some reason it's our complexion that has to be the one to make the peace at the end of time. And the Hopis say the same thing with the man with the red hat type of thing. So like it's hard not to cherry pick things because there's truth in all these different things. And I think maybe that's the point, right? Like there's a deception that's been had and there's breadcrumbs around, but people always say it's for those who can see and ears for hearing. So I don't know what to make of it. Does that make sense? Or am I just
No,
talking?
No, that's part of the problem, dude. Is like with a lot of the people that we do try to talk to about this stuff, is they don't understand. Is like, even for me with cryptids and stuff like that, I don't get to the point where I'm obsessed and I have to do every episode on it. It's enough going. I do think there's some things out there. This is my best explanation for it. But like again, I listen to a lot of a lot of cryptids that will end up being, and the Native Americans say this, and they have this on their walls, and this is what somebody else did with a testimony thing. And the stories, as you just said, very consistent. And it makes me wonder, it's not a coincidence that after Babel, there was that migration. There was something that happened. Again, to call him the Great Spirit, there is a connection there. The aspect that you wanted to kick these people out of their normal lands as Masons, right, with Jackson, and he's shipping them all off onto reservations. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why they call found, right? Founded on this day. Did they really build it, or did they modify it with their Masonic, knowledge? And then they just kind of, what do you call it? Repossessed it like a hermit crab.
Mm-hmm.
where they evict the former victim of the shell that they want.
Yeah, and they
And
could take it for themselves. Yeah.
right.
Well,
right.
there's the Tartaria consideration, and that's another big thing that's blowing up. There's so many things that are surfacing right now as AI is advancing, where people can fake videos. Like, you don't know what to believe anymore. Like, we have Göbekli Tepe, we have 2 kilometers under the pyramids. Like, I was excited because I thought the pyramids would either be the halls of Amenti or the labyrinth. I've been wanting that labyrinth found my entire life. Like, that's the one I've been hoping for, because it makes sense, because that would add to the mystery school stuff with all of
Right.
this.
Right.
But it's what do we believe anymore? Like, again, like people are making shit up, right? People are making up their own conclusions with AI, and like, we're in the age of discernment, right? Like, we have the Library of Alexandria in the palm of our hands, and people are dumber. Like, I don't. It just. It, and it's really weird now that people have a hard time swallowing that the fringe has now become home plate,
Yeah.
and they don't know what to do about it. And when you double down on a lie for so long, right? Like, it's hard to get out of, right? Like,
Oh,
when
dude,
like
I think
I watched Rogan. Look at Rogan with Hawass. That was by far the worst episode that's ever been on Rogan. Hawass did no favors for himself, and he proved that he might be a gatekeeping charlatan, like everybody thought, because they had those questions about Egypt. And he goes, "I'm the only one that can determine what Egypt is," right? Who knows what's going on? Like, what are they hiding from us? Were these made by people? Were these made by the Hebrews? Were these made by the Anunnaki? What's coming out, right? Because now a lot of people are pushing the Anunnaki stuff. I'm like, well, fuck. Like, is that what Bluebeam's going to be? Are they going to say, that is the Anunnaki? Nibiru's
yes.
here, and here they are. They're 7 feet tall grays. These were the previous gods. Like, are we going to see? We've seen every movie play out up until this point. Now, are we getting Alien Covenant? Is that going to be the next movie with the engineers? That or Childhood's End. Those are my 2 bets before we get Terminator. They would have to be.
I think that would definitely happen after the Christians. I think first, because the Antichrist makes war against the saints, you have to put a saints, or like you said before with the pharmakia, Revelation 18:23, the voice of the groom, Christ, the word of God, and the bridesmaids was heard no longer in the, because by the merchants were all the nations deceived by their pharmakia, right? So in essence, you need to stomp out truth, or basically all the what do you call it, the gopher heads that keep popping up, and you just slamming the gopher. You need to quell all of that. Why? Because Christians are truth. We're arbiters of truth, right? That a Christian means to be following the anointed one. I find it ironic that after J6, Trump creates Truth Social, right? And when you go to Pontius Pilate, and he was over here having the embodiment of truth standing in front of him, and he goes, "What is truth?" Right? So when you're looking for it, you will find it. But as you just said, people have programmed themselves of just being content with the now. People have accepted the lies of nationalism or borders. It's one of the stupidest things ever, dude. A border is temporary. It's not going to exist in eternity. Your uniform, your flag, not going to be saluted in eternity. Like, we're really pushing at the end where it's like, seriously, spiritual warfare, or are you really still thinking red and blue with how you view the world?
That's why
It's coming
democracy never works. We're at the
right.
point where, like, every democracy is great to a point, and then when it's not good anymore. That's what happened with Rome the first time, right? Like, we're there again. Where do we go? You want to go habit the stars so we can play this game on another planet? Because that's what it's going to lead to. Because we have nowhere else to go here except for within the Earth or in the space. Who are we going to be fighting over? Like, you're right. Borders mean fuck all. But at the same time, where borders do matter is, our culture is going to align. Like, that's what it comes down to. Like, are you going to stab me in the middle of the night because you don't like how I look? Like, that's it should be. I believe in the melting pot. I believe it should have been, right? But like, the Christians, like, everyone said, because thou shalt not kill. I'm like, it's actually thou shalt not murder. But good on you. And people are just like, well, we're gonna let these other things happen, and we're just gonna, like, I don't know. That's why I started looking into the 7 fires prophecy with the natives, because it made more sense without the dogma. Like, so I actually, do you mind if I play this for you, and then maybe we can
As long as we don't
dissect
get
it?
some kind of copyright.
Oh no, look, it's up there, and if they strike me, they strike me. I don't care.
They said, hey, listen, the sacred teachings you have.
Amidst the echoing whispers of time, the Anishinaabe people harbor a prophecy known only as the Seven Fires Prophecy, a vision that flickers with both hope and dread. It speaks of 7 epochs that lay a path of tribulation and enlightenment, foretelling the spiritual journey of the Anishinaabe and the world. As the prophecy unfolds, each fire represents a pivotal moment in history, marking both growth and profound challenges for humanity. While some fires have already burned their course, others remain an ominous halo of uncertainty waiting to be ignited. Perhaps the most chilling portion lies in the 7th fire, a time when humanity is faced with a choice, a path leading to materialism and despair, or one of peace and kinship, honoring the ancient ways of living harmoniously with the earth. These words, though ancient, continue to cast a haunting shadow over all who dare to listen, challenging modern generations to heed their age-old warnings. Amidst the echoing whispers of time,
So
the
that
Anishinaabe people harbor a prophecy known only as the Seven Fires Prophecy.
Of the Seven Fires Prophecy. And it's funny how you look at that. It kind of, if you look at those fires as ages or days, it lines up very closely with ours. I mean, that was the Reader's Digest version. It goes deeper than that, but it talks about we're the ones, the North Americans are supposed to be the ones that make the decision, like that, however this pans out, right? And the reason I looked into it is because my buddy started talking about, Hislop and the 2 Babylons, and I bit for a little bit, and I started to think about the 13 tribes, and then I started to think about Enoch with the Nephilim begging for repentance. Now, just because God said that they could never be redeemed doesn't mean that some sects of Nephilim didn't just want to live a peaceful life while they still had it. There's nothing that says they didn't do that. So my consideration was perhaps the 13th tribe may have done that jump across the pond with the remnant of the Nephilim and built what's over here and commingled with the natives here for 1,000 years. Because if you look at the time frame, colonization didn't get really shitty and bad until what 1800s, 1700s ish, but the 1800s got really bad. So they had almost 1,000 years with us after Rome chased everybody through the Englands. So there could be some truth to that, and that's why perhaps we found the cuneiform tablets here in North America, right? People talk about the red-headed Vikings being here too, right? They could be the giants that we talk about. Who the fuck knows? But there is truth that could point to this North American piece, the place, ironically enough, we've all lived our entire lives and we know fuck all about, right? Like if you look at any of our history, what do you got? Gettysburg and a couple like big battles, and up here we have the same shit and fur trapping. What else do we know? We don't know shit about any of the peoples that lived here because we erased it, and now they refuse to tell us it. So it's just I think before at least myself is ready to fully jump onto where everyone else is pointing, I think this needs at least to have a fair examination, because this is my argument with New Age, right? Like if you're right and I'm wrong, no fault, no foul. I will be born again, and as this awakening that you call it is happening, I'm just going to be born enlightened, and it's going to be piece of cake for the rest of my life. No problem. But if I'm wrong, or if you're wrong, I'm fucked, right? Because Christianity would have to be the other way. So it's like, I'm not causing you shit. Don't cause me shit. But let's look at, do you know what I mean? Like people don't look at it from that perspective, right? It's like assertion. If you're not on my side, you're fucked. It comes down to tribalism, right? And I don't know where we go from here.
God, yeah, that's biblical. For me, dude, I'm not too worried about that, but I was chuckling a little bit with the 7 fires. Then you have the 7 candlesticks in Revelation as well. Like it's eerie when you look into a lot of these prophecies of other cultures, that somehow there is like this correlation that happens to tie in directly with, like, that sounds pretty biblical actually.
Even with the Pleiades constellation, the 7 sisters, right? Like there we have Zeus's story, right? With how the Gorgons were made, right? And they, who did he rape? He raped Athena or something or whatever. It created Medusa, and then he sent them all up into the sky. Well, the 7 sisters constellation, or the 7 great grandmothers, as they call them here in North America, all of that is true, right? The swastika and the size of the Big Dipper in the sky. Well, that lines up with the medicine wheel, and the medicine wheel talks about, you know, how the white people were the ones of intellect, and they were the ones that came here and did this and that. And every piece of that medicine wheel has its own, pretty much for pigment of the specialities of the pigments. But if you look at how the constellation spins, right now we're at it shows the white color at the top, and to the counterclockwise of that they have the black, and to the clockwise of it they have the yellow, and at the bottom they have the red. So if you put that in the constellation swing, if you want to go through cycles, that's kind of maybe how they look at it. The next color coming up at the pinnacle would be yellow. And what's happening right now? China's becoming the world power. And what happened before then? It would have been us, the Caucasians, that were in the power. And the time before that would have been the color black, which, in my opinion, that could have been. I think the lost histories of the Africans was probably Babylon. That's where I think, anyways. But it would have, if you look at that medicine wheel, the way that is projected, it would say these were the races in power at the time for their 2,500 year epochs as that thing moves around. So that backs the cycles argument for them, and it's for the Christian arguments. It's like, well, are they telling the truth? You know what I mean? Like there's so much stuff that's convoluted that we have to really dig into before we can just toss it by the wayside, even from us. Because I personally believe, like, we're looking at 2,000 years in the Middle East and all the other places, but why are we only focusing there? People moved, people migrated. Why are we focused here? We have to look at the lines. Why did we lose those tribes? Where'd they go? Right. And there's a convergence. Like, there's definitely a convergence coming, whether we like it or not. It's just a matter of what channels do we go down, and who do we talk to? Who are the right people to talk to? Right. Like, that's why I reached out to you. Like, you were on Tom's show. I was like, this is a very good conversation. It's a conversation I've heard before. I really want to talk to this guy. I can have conversations, but it's like, where do we go from here? We've built the community. We're getting the word out. Now what? Like, you're of the same mindset as me. We have at least 5 to 7 years left, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people think I'm fucking crazy for that, but at this point, I don't care, because I've seen what I've seen. It's, what do I do with it? Right? Is it going to be
At this point,
democratic society forever, like the Matrix, or is the end of time coming?
I think it's the end of the time, and then we're going to have 1,000-year reign. But that's me. And I know I sound crazy to everybody, but as you said, I see what I see. I see what, again, I'm comparing around the Bible, comparing along the cult, and even, again, Hindu, this thing, that thing. It's all saying 2030, 2033. Again, 3.5 years, if Christians, it is in 2029 where we are taken out. I don't know. If we're able even to fight back, I don't know. For me, I just want to be a cog in the wheel of what they're trying to promote and push and produce. And apparently it is something, because they censor me up the wazoo. But that's the best that I can do, dude, because what does he say? My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. So if I can be a crux in that and say, hey, try to do something with this today, because like I said before and earlier in the show, or prior to the show, I'm seeing a lot of people, they're like, well, he's this, so you can't take him incredible, or oh, he's an atheist. No, stop being such a bigoted, stuck up and start, like, okay, there's something there. Now, how can I convince the agnostic? How can I convince the atheist? Because there's some people still looking, and that's who we're supposed to reach until then. Now, I don't know, but for me, dude, I'm truly getting convicted with the Gideon concept when God recruited him, and when he was doing the milling at night, saying, all right, I want you to go up against the Assyrians. And then he has all these guys, like, was almost 10,000 guys. He sends like 7,000 something home. Then he goes to the stream. Anybody who drinks like a dog, blah, 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 send them home. What does he get at the very end? 300 guys. So it's almost, for me, I'm seeing that as almost as some of them are not going to be made for the fight, even when, like, the children in the wilderness. Sometimes the old school or the old class, they have to die off because they're not going to be ready for what's coming. But my Elijah spirit remnant, you guys are going to be the two witnesses. You're going to be the ones that start turning things over and making people go, God's real. How the heck did you do that? Right? And we're going to be hunted by the government, I think, the whole time. I mean, that's the whole premise of The Boys. And they said that Homelander's based on Trump.
Yep.
So,
Oh, The
maybe,
Boys is great. It's the
uh,
best social commentary I've ever seen. I love that show for what it is because that's exactly how superheroes would be run if they existed. I love
thank
that
you.
show.
And I don't support Homelander as I'm like he's my I like the concept of yeah, if you have these skills, you're gonna be like him. And I've always hated
Mhm.
Superman, but the aspect you see him, I'm over here like, yeah, because if you're literally this OP to the average person,
Mhm.
you're not gonna be probably very nice. And especially if how you grew up, like he
Well,
did.
Homelander's real Superman, right? Like that's literally what that's like when you watch people having debates on TV, right? Like somebody who actually swears, right? Like I trust them, right? Because it's not acting bullshit, right?
Right.
Like when Trump said, "What the fuck are they doing?" I was like, "Ah, that wasn't scripted." Like that was the one thing that I was like, "That's definitely pure Trump." Which is ironic because a lot of people are losing trust in him, but at the same time, right, to talk real, that's what got him into power. He was talking like you and I are talking,
Right.
not
Populist.
political, Masonic, mystery school, beat around the bush talking, right? And that's the other thing people don't understand. Like they think the mystery schools, they were teaching you how to throw fire out of your hands and shit. It's like that's not what they were doing. Like they were
Right.
literally teaching political science, right? Let's talk in circles and then make you think that you have a point. I'm going to teach you philosophy being another one of them. Let's have a thought experiment that breaks your brains and gets you stuck in a labyrinth you're never going to get out of. So now you're going to listen to me. Like it's not it's puppet mastery. That's all it really is. Like the
Right.
snake thing, I can't explain practical magic, but we've seen that happen. But it's not like you're going to turn into fucking Homelander being X-Men. Like that's
Right.
not what the mystery schools are. I wish it was. But
Well, dude, and they sensationalize it to make us think that's what it is, or even just to delude us, like, oh, that's just fantasy, that's just this. It's over here, like, no, they were tapping into again paganism. What is paganism? It's doing this. It's trying to figure out how to harness this kind of power and outdo God. Like the whole concept of government, govern to control, meant mind. It is mind control. So the
it's the
very
blood
aspect,
magic that scares me. It's the blood
yeah,
magic that does scare me because I don't know what powers that includes. So like I've looked in like it's conjuring fucking whatever, right? Channeling spirits, this, that, and the other thing. Well, my fucking doctor told me you can channel spirits flat out to my face. Like, yeah, you channeling's real. And I'm like, well, that makes sense when I'm on 6 grams of mushrooms and I'm not the one talking. Right. Like we've had these talks, right? I'm like, you don't understand what you're talking about, but you're telling me I have to let go of Christianity. Why I can't let go of dogma? That's what she asked me. I'm like, it's the fucking deception. The only reason I'm going to is because I have to, and these are fun arguments. But outside of that, like this is what you're teaching people who are sick,
mhm,
people who have PTSD, people who are going to go in there. They either believe in God or they don't. They're going to come out going, I don't drink anymore, and I'm enlightened, and no. And then they start, doing the selfless stuff and being prideful, and then they're fucked, right? And they think that they're the most enlightened person on the planet. Then they get ego disillusion. And then we have the next David Koresh, and which is what's scaring the shit out of me with this mushroom movement and these psychedelic movements. Do you know how many cults are gonna fucking fire up from this? That if they haven't already, look at the Children of God. I was talking to those people. They're a doomsday cult. And I asked a question in the conversation. I said, what do you think your convent is doing right now as the world's falling apart? Do you think they're yelling, I told you so, you should have listened to me? Like how many people's minds must be melting right now is beyond me. And people don't realize like there's children sacrifice going on. There's all these black magic parties happening in Hollywood, and they just say it's not real. Like, of course, you know what? This is what I told them. I said if P. Diddy goes to jail, they'd rather give you one pedophile over what else is going on because it's far worse.
mhm,
Like and if you think, well, touching the kids pretty bad, like imagine what's going on in the background.
right,
And that's where the adrenochrome shit comes from, right? That's
right.
that's the black magic. That's the like Babylon taught that shit. Oh, look at this.
We actually have a comment.
One comment. There is a cult
Oh,
being
it took three
investigated in
hours.
Michigan right now. See, that's the problem. I have quite a few decent people who watch this show, but nobody ever participates. And I don't know, how do you do it? How do you get people to
I
participate?
don't
I
even do
just
live streams, dude. I'm still trying to figure out how to monetize crap. But it's as I'm telling people, it's like $3 to $5, $3 to $5. Used to give a lot of people for years. You were giving 10% to your freaking churches. Now
Mm,
somebody's asking $3 to $5 a month for all the stuff that I print. I read. I do this. Blah blah blah. I gave up my 401k and savings to do what I do, And
Well,
now
it's
all
not
of a
even
sudden,
just that.
oh, that's too much. That's too much.
Well, it's not even just that. Get people to like something, or just
Digital
hit one
arthritis.
button. The button's right there. Hit a
Yeah.
subscribe. I don't know why people won't do it. Like, is that sloth? Because it's definitely not integrity, right? People.
I don't know, dude. I honestly, I like. There's sometimes I get like a dislike, and I'm like, okay, so what didn't you like about it? You never comment, so it's like, how can I improve if you're not gonna? And then when you do write a comment, it's so nasty. It's like, I don't even know if I want you as a follower because that's just a mean thing to say. You're like, do you understand the work that goes into doing this stuff? And as I was doing with Victor Hugo, guy I've done some shows with, they don't like him because he's very vulgaric and all this stuff. I get it, I understand, but I'm also one of the only people that will talk to him and try to explain Christian stuff to him. But they're writing all these critiques and stuff like that with him, and I'm over here like, but do you guys? You click on their channels. They don't have a face. They don't put up videos. They don't do it. Like, don't give us a critique until you as well are doing something out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to be
Well, I agree. Well, that's the
pedantic,
thing.
but
People are trolls to be trolls, and that's the other thing. It's just like, what are you doing? You're just derailing shit just because you're an idiot. Like I come across that. It took me not long to realize just let it go, right?
yeah,
Because like it's like arguing with a moron, right? Like you could show them evidence and they'll still call you a cunt, right? Oh,
right.
there's the word. I shouldn't have used that, but you know what I mean? Like that's where it's going. It's just like what is the point? Like you'll either find the way you want. Like hopefully 5 years down the road when shit starts hitting the fan, you consider this conversation and maybe smarten up a little
Dude,
bit.
that I'm not gonna lie. And people are gonna think, well, so just let me clarify for the record. Like when my buddy basically kicked me out of the house, it wasn't like again like he escorted me or threw me out. Right? It was just more like it just got really quiet and I just walked out and I turned around and I looked at the house. I said, God, a double portion of whatever's to come for the people that just refused the conversation. I know I have the gift, but again, I have a rule. Unless asked, I will not talk about it. But if I'm asked, I will elaborate. His best friend is the one that's always asking me all the conspiracy stuff, but then he was over here saying, like, don't say it. It's not your roof, dude. It's not under your roof. It's your dad's roof. You're living in his freaking basement.
Mhm.
There's a certain point where it's like, God, I don't wish scars. I don't wish bloodshed. I don't wish anything. All I'm asking is that whenever they're going through whatever's to come, that you haunt them with every time I warned them, every time I said something in relation to this. That's what I ask. That's it. I don't ask for anything of a violent nature, but that's my equivalent of dusting off my sandals, as it were, because it's like, God, it's grieving my heart that I don't have much to give, but I have a lot up here. And I've used this analogy before. It's like I don't do Christmas, but it's like coming in with a whole bunch of presents, and you want to hand this out to this person, hand this out to this person, and they're like, "No, thanks." But like I gift wrapped it, and it's almost like $100 that went into this, and if I just give, no, I don't want it.
Well, you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart, right? I mean, if
Right? It's not
and that's the thing, you're
malice
not
or
doing it for
anything.
everybody. You're doing it for yourself, right? You're just offering them to have a piece of
For
the tithe.
free. For free. Dude, it's just out of for free because I love them, not because I'm going to impose it. And I understand. Okay, you're not where I'm at. Okay, I'll reel it down. Here's something small. Maybe just here's a book. Like again, I've done that before. I bought people the $28 book. Here's a book. And they never read it. And it grieves my heart, dude, because it's like as you just said, it's with love. It's with love that I'm giving it to them, but the more I do this stuff, dude, the more I'm understanding the prophets and I'm understanding Christ. Is that you're warning them and you're like, they're stubborn people. They're just not gonna get it. Now when I'm reading it, I'm like, I get their laments. Now when Christ says, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. I'm getting it. I'm getting it. And it sucks, but
And he didn't turn his back on the naysayers, and that must have been the
great.
hardest thing, especially being nailed to that fucking cross and then having the dickhead on the side of you like taunt you while you're dying. Like I'd be mad, dude. I'd ask God why you forsake me too. But like, really? But if you talk to a lot of veterans, they'll tell you the same thing. Like, I didn't see combat, but I sailed the Pacific, right? My job when I was in garrison, like I'm a military firefighter, so we would be cutting guys down, right? Like we would see the PTSD, we would see the after effects. We'd be guys who came back, did all this shit, and they came home and just couldn't handle it. They died, right? And just from that respect alone. Sorry, I just lost my thought. Where was it? What was I saying before
You
that?
were on cruise, you were PTSD, and you were traveling around.
Um, shit.
Came from the Pacific.
So we've still seen death. We've still seen the effects and struggles that other people have. And a lot of the guys who come back say the same thing. They look at it and go, what? They see the world now and they go, what the fuck did I lose my legs for? What the
Mm,
fuck this? What like and this is Canadian veterans saying the same thing. Like not to say the service wasn't proud of the service, but at the same time they're going, I'm not doing this fucking World War III bullshit for the nonsense that's going on over there. Like and that's where a lot of people get stuck because then it gets wrapped up with identity. Their identity gets wrapped into it, and then they start having the moral compass spin,
right.
and then and now the medication they're implementing is pharmakeia and new age. Imagine what that's going to do to people, and that's kind of where we're finding ourselves, right? Like uh, i- a lot of people just kind of get denialism going. Why? Like I had a couple firefighters say the same thing after they got out. Like I wouldn't piss on somebody to put them out if they were on fire today, because the world has just become so self-absorbed and self-involved that there's no substance to anything being offered, and a lot of people are just kind of hiding. I mean, look at the dating rates. Nobody knows how to talk. Like here we are, you and I talking 1,000 kilometers away, and people can't have a fucking conversation in their house about like finances.
Right. Or
And
what's
like,
going on in the world, or explaining what the Talmud is. They did. I said this on another show. I said when it comes to dating, that I'm not. I have to dumb myself down in order to fit in, and unfortunately, I'm not smart enough to be stupid. It's come to a point where if I even just want to, okay, so you don't want to go into a call. What's your favorite history thing? Well, I like, the era of Abraham Lincoln or something like. Okay, cool. And then I'll start, I know that, so I'll give you a couple. Nothing. And then it's like, okay, well, I thought you just said this was an area you're interested in, history. Let's try to find commonality. And you got nothing else to go on after that. And it's like, okay, so what exactly do you like? Talk about what you're passionate about. And I watch all these things like, what's that show? Groucho Marx had a show, and it was like a game host thing. But you come
oh
on and you have
yeah,
all, yeah,
what's my line? Let's make not no,
not
don't
what's
be.
my line, but you know what I'm talking about. But he'd have these and such diversity with the guests, but they would talk about what's going on in their lives. There's so like all over the world, all these different perspectives and insights and thoughts. And I'm over here going, this dude, going into a room now, I'll do a joke and it'll be like a triple edged pun,
Mm.
and it won't resonate with them. And it's funny because then I'll watch them watch something stupid like a Family Guy clip, and they're laughing their ass. And I'm like, that
Society's
did
been dumbed
not
down.
right. It's like that's not even funny, but that's what amuses you. Or like another thing where with this other kid, he shared a clip. There was a fat guy, and basically he was making fart sounds as he was scooting across the floor. I'm like, this is what amuses you?
But did you see that disabled guy? I think I don't know what disease he's got, but he's like really skinny, and he all he does is fart. He goes, "I'm a race car." Like this is what sells as entertainment now, or thought. Like yeah, you're about the same age as me, I'd imagine. I'm 40.
30.
But look back to the cartoons, even the sitcoms that at least I grew up with. I had Family Matter. Like, despite the shit that happened in the background
Yeah,
of those shows, like those shows always ended with a moral. G.I. Joe always ended up with, Joe talk. There's always something at the end that brought everything together. And was
right,
even Homer Simpson, right? Like he was a bumbling idiot, but the first 10 seasons of The Simpsons, right? Like he always made amends for whatever he did. And now he's just the fucking he's dumb dad, right?
right,
Like it's just
right.
slapstick nonsense. There's nothing morally holding anything together anymore. And I think that's the problem. I think around 1998 when SpongeBob and Ren and Stimpy started, that was about the when everything started to change, right? When you would see drawn asses and
That
normal
explains
TV and
it.
fart jokes, and you
I've
weren't allowed to
never
say
liked
shit.
SpongeBob.
But
Never
now
liked
look at
it.
us. They encourage this shit. They have porn on X. They have all of this nonsense going on there. But now they're back to you can't say shit on television. You can't say the word suicide on the
Yeah,
internet. That's
yeah,
not even like you can't say kill. I love saying the words. Like I feel like George Carlin now when I say all this shit because it's ludicrous.
right. Well,
They,
dude,
we're censoring for what? What are we censoring against?
and that's what I was telling folks. I says people are paying money to go listen to a comedian, and if they're a good comedian worth their salts, like Carlin's caliber, they're philosophers looking at life through a humorous lens
100%.
to call out what. When I said I think he would have been good friends with Diogenes. Um,
Could you imagine if he lived 2 more years? It's all he needed was 2 more years. If he could have just made it through halfway through COVID, my God.
It's astounding, dude, because there's times I'm looking at my buddy and he says, "Oh yeah, I love Carlin," and I'm like, "Yeah, but when I told you I didn't vote this thing, you're gonna say, well, then you don't have a right to complain." I'm like, "Well, you just told me you like Carlin too, and what did Carlin say? I don't vote because I didn't keep this monkey circus going, right? I don't participate in that. Therefore, I have a right to complain about both sides." And I'm thinking, and my buddy says, "Yeah, well, voting is pretty much just hypocrisy and anything, and I hate hypocrisy." Like he says, "Oh, I hate hypocrisy" at one point, but then he's saying he's contributing to the point of hypocrisy
Yep.
by supporting the military-industrial complex. He's a vet like yourself, but he also supporting a narcissist in the White House. I'm going, so dude, at what point do you actually have a moral backbone of determining, like, what is truth, what is not? Well, I figure when I get to heaven, I can, talk to God and show him my resume in essence of how good of a person I was. I says, dude, that's not
It's
how
not
it
the good
works.
place. It's not the good place, buddy.
What you think you're just gonna get up there and you'll be able to hash out with God that I was a good person because I was a good dad and I was a good husband? It's like, no, I'm so sick of it, dude. That most people, like when I'll say anarchy, I said immediately you're thinking Antifa and somebody with masks throwing Molotov cocktails into a building, right? Yep, that's what you're thinking because you don't even know the definition of some things. And then when I'll break down said definition of what exactly I believe and what that actually means, break down the etymology, bring up suddenly you're just going because you don't even know what I'm talking about, and you're not willing to pick up I bought him like 3 books in total. It probably was up to 90 something bucks that I put into that. 3-4 years post, he hasn't even opened one of them, not a chapter. And I'm thinking you wouldn't be listening. And like I told him, dude, can you take a 3 months fast off of Ben Shapiro or the Daily Wire?
Mhm.
Well, come on, man. I know you think he's biased with the Palestinian thing, but I mean, you would be too if it was your home country. Blah, blah, blah. I says, that's not what I'm saying. I said, can you turn him off for 3 months? Just because I want to hear what you have to think about something without regurgitating what your soothsayer political pundit had to say. I want to know
Mhm.
what you think. And it's like
Absolutely.
my aunt who listens to CNN. I'm like, that's literally a headline from CNN that you just
Yep.
recited to me. You don't know anything about what they're okay. All right, never
You
mind.
ever show them the videos where all of the conglomerates play the same script and play them side by side? They're like, "That's fake." I'm like, "Well, it wasn't AI when I showed it to you 2 years ago." Like,
Right, dude. It's coming. I think what's that cultural subversion? Yuri Bezmenov.
oh, Mesmenev, yeah.
I watched it on YouTube, folks. It's still up. But
Well,
dude,
they talked there was a Twilight Zone episode. It's one of the scariest ones, the most thought-provoking ones. I think this was the 1950s one. They redid it in the later episodes, but it was where the kid had to go to school and everybody had to write a test, right? It was like idiocracy. Like, you got to go take your test when you're 18 and no.
yeah,
Don't worry, you're going to pass. And but so long story short, by the end of it, the kid goes, writes the test, he passes it, and then he doesn't come home. He comes home in a body bag, right? Because he passed the test. He was too intelligent. So they were dumbing society, and they were only they were taking the smart people out of society. And I see us there right now. Like Helga just brought up, I feel like we're living in idiocracy. That
yeah,
conversation comes up so much. This is one of the
yeah.
many movies that are attached to what's going on right now in society, and people are just again they burying their heads in the sand. Like even Katie had mentioned one of those questions that we discussed this earlier. I feel like New Age was a trap that was designed to draw people in. Possibly, possibly because
She does
we're
know that the low chakra is part of New Age, right?
oh, absolutely the low chakra
Oh,
is
okay.
part of New Age. But I think that's the point she was trying to bring up, right?
Oh,
Like because the lower chakras are your lower frequencies, right? That they talk about being your hell, and that's where the Kundalini
right,
snake is. There's
right.
something to it. Like I'm not going to knock these things.
No, I'm not knocking the frequency thing because even then, that's when they were talking about the certain like linen and cotton and don't
Mhm.
mix like certain things and
It's in all those
that's the
ceremony
thing.
books. Yep.
Yes,
Nine days putting on your linen robes. But that's exactly what happened to me up north. Like I only found it in a occult book later on. I was like, that's peculiar. 9 days. I was up there for 9 days. We had to fast a certain way. We had to do this. We had to do that. And then they play the drums, and third eye was open through weed. Through weed. No psilocybin, no DMT. I went further in that ceremony than I had ever on mushrooms. And it
Mm.
scared the fuck out of me because that's when I
Yeah.
came out of going, I don't know what to do about my dogma anymore. And then 6 months later, go into a psychosis, and then a year later, I'm here having these conversations with you, right? Like, I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what the right way to wake people up is, but everything keeps coming back to Christianity. Everything comes, even New Agers who were like staunch, I'm a witch and I do that, like they're back. And it scares me because some of these people were so far, like when Kat Von D becomes a Christian, I question it.
Hmm.
When Russell Brand becomes a Christian, I definitely question it.
Oh, dude, I
And
just told him so many times on that. Yeah, it's
and there's that apostasy. There's the apostasy, right? But what are they doing? They're hiding behind it so they don't get shit for what's coming for them, right? I'll full disclosure, like I had an abuser growing up. Their excuse was they were hiding behind God. And I was like, isn't that
same with my
funny?
dad, my
Isn't that
sisters. Yeah.
right? And I'm like, how? So now you've ruined you've ruined me religiously because now I hate God because of what happened, and now I have to resolve why that shit happens, right? But at the end of the day, it comes back to, like that's where the Gnosticism comes into it. Like, what are energy vampires? They're
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
something from you that you can never get back, and that was it doesn't have that was a spiritual sacrifice, not even a blood. That was a spiritual sacrifice. And then what happens to the husks of people that are left behind? And that's the common conversation we have is like, what do we do now? Because the people who are waking up, so to speak, are the people who seem to be the most damaged. It's only people who've been through traumas. It's not somebody who's like,
Were you
I've
there?
been pampered my whole life.
Were you there for when I was telling Brendan the incentive for why? No, I don't. I think you tuned out. But I was telling him part of the reason that prompted me doing what I was doing. Like I gave my testimony online, explaining how what was going on at domestic scale growing up was kind of prompting me towards where this was going, because my first set of parents were home invaders and they shot a guy in the back of the head. They went to jail. Get a second set of parents, and my dad, like he was hiding under this religious cloak, and you think, yeah, he's pretty genuine, but he's messing around with all the adopted gals in our family, my sisters. And seeing my mother drinking herself into stupors every night to hide, knowing what was going on, but just instead of going to a cop, instead of talking about it with somebody, that she just was, going in a whirlpool of wine to just forget about it. And
Mhm.
meantime, people are suffering. And I said, I can't live your lie because your lie is based on fear. What happened there is what forged me into who I am. Now, giving my testimony when I did this episode, went all over in the family. Everybody got upset with me. And then I'm over here like, yet nothing's changed. You all still don't talk to me like you weren't talking to me prior too much before, except once in a blue moon. When you send me a birthday card, it's the same freak. It's like a zombie. It's this reboot, same card. I can literally quote it from memory without even opening the card. You know, I'm
Mhm.
like, it was becoming such a cycle where I says, it's not even real. What you say is family, like all families are weird. Not like this. Not like where you let the person who's been traumatized and you call them the black sheep because they're saying I was hurt. You don't put them away. And I've
Yep.
seen the same thing with C19. I'm telling you the truth. This is look it in. Here's a book. Here's the no, you're wrong. And that dude, what I saw domestically, now on an international scale, it kicked me into hard drive of saying, you know what? I can't tolerate this anymore. So I'll
Mhm.
start swinging and I'll go after again. That's why I said the Punisher aspect. I get it. Is I serve my country. I come back home and look. Where's the cops? The cops freaking killing my family.
Mhm.
Right? The people who are supposed to be protecting the domestic front, they destroyed everything I was fighting for. So what am
Yeah.
I supposed to do? Right? And I'm going to go out and I'm going to become a one-man army. People may not understand me. Some people will say he's good. Some people will say he's bad. But guess what? I don't really care what you all think about me. I'm going after the enemy because the enemy has hurt me. He's hurt my
Yep.
sisters. He's hurt that. I have to do something. And I think, as you just said, that's the trauma. It's pissed us. It's pissed us off to the point where we're going, not. What was it in Age of Ultron? kind of been through that whole mind mind control thing before. Not a big
Yep.
fan. That's kind of where we're at.
But you know what's funny? It's funny about mind control. Just shifting it a little bit. Of all movies, Batman Begins came on. Sorry, Batman Forever, and I haven't seen the movie in like forever. And I think that was the most diabolical one that they had as the Jim Carrey one, right? Because if you look at all of the enemies that they had over time, that's the only one where he makes that Vox thing, and they tap it to your pineal. I would assume it was the pineal gland where they're taking your dreams and reading your mind. Like we're there.
Yeah,
That's where we're
the
going with
Scarecrow.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, not the Scarecrow. This is like the '90s one where he puts the thing and it taps into your TV. It's the Val Kilmer Batman.
I haven't
Have a
seen
watch of that one. Oh,
Alright.
as cheesy as it is, looking backwards, going shit. That technology, the Vox, is literally what Neuralink's going to be,
Or
and
yeah,
it
and
taps into
failed for-
your fears and creates a mass psychosis and all of these things that we're seeing right now.
Wait, so
And
that is similar to the Scarecrow, the spray that he put
with
towards
the
him,
fear
and
spray,
the
with the fear
maggots
spray,
over the
yeah.
face or something. Yeah. That dude, that going on for 5.5 months.
It's going to happen.
That's
I'm convinced it's
terrifying.
going
You're
to
right.
happen.
That's worse than hell. That's purgatory on earth.
But my question is, like, I unfortunately took the shot. What does that mean for me? Am I going to turn into a Cronenberg and just be a giant moving tumor, or am I going to be, because I only took one, or am I
Right.
going to be a mind control zombie, or is my heart going to explode? Like, I don't. But here's
Well, I heard
the
some
thing.
of
Like,
them
I've been
actually
waking
work.
up ever since too. So I'm
Right,
like,
because
is
I've been saying to
there a
some people,
grace?
I think there is a little bit, because there's some people saying like I was falling away from God, but after 2020 and I've been kind of waking up. So I do think there is a segment. But the thing is, have you ever seen Babylon 5?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember the scene where what's his name? The Centauri ambassador, Londo,
Oh shit. That's
when he was
we're
talking
going
to
back.
when he was talking to the skinny ambassador guy that was right beside the emperor, and he's over here saying, "No, I just poisoned your drink." And he's like, he's looking concerned. He says, "Don't worry, it's not going to kill you. However, if you don't do what I say within the next 4 or 5 years, like every time I tell you to do something, you better do it, or I'll have an agent deliver the other half of this thing, and it will meet what's inside you right now. And when it happens, it will rupture and you will die."
Mhm.
And I'm thinking to myself, is that possible what they did with C-19? Is that's the first half, but then immediately when Trump comes in 2 to 3 days in, he's talking about the artificial AI injection thing.
Well, people
And
think the catalyst is going to be 5G. That's the other thing. They think it's going to
right,
be the 5G signal that goes. Yeah.
when you merge both of those together and then you hit the 5G, I think that would be it. But again, it would explain possibly that, like yourself, some people really woke up as opposed to went further asleep, even though they got one jab. But if you mix the two, like you got set 1, set 2, you're now officially ours.
Mhm.
Maybe there is that little period of grace. Maybe you got lucky and got one of the ones that actually wasn't potent, as
Oh
it
no,
were.
I waited. So I fucked
You did.
myself. Yeah, I waited. Like I've already, but here's the thing, like I've already accepted death. Like I'm not afraid to die. I honestly like looking at what Revelation says is like, oh cool, I get to be a saint of the martyr. I'm automatically sanctified and I get my head cut off and I'm out of here. Fucking sign me up. But it would never be that easy. It would never be, and that's what people don't understand. Like, oh yeah, fucking cut my head cut. Thinking the same way is like, then you're not talking about like you have to go the path Christ did, if not worse. Like they're not talking about you're probably gonna get filleted before they cut your fucking head off. They don't tell you these things, but that's what's gonna come because they're good because the whole point is for compliance. I'm just gonna let you get away and kill you. No, I want to take your soul. So I'm gonna pull out your toenails. I'm gonna start pulling skin off with hot pokers. I'm gonna like it'll be the Inquisition again. It just reversed Inquisition. That's what it's gonna be. And like even Gurn, what he's the other one I have these conversations with. He thinks the mark of the beast is the cross because he goes, think about it. If you look at Blue Beam and they do a fake second coming, why wouldn't the cross be the mark? I was like, that does make a little bit of sense because that's the
I mean,
thing.
they already drew it with
Christianity is going to be the bad guy.
on Ash Wednesday.
That's right.
Rising from the ashes with the Phoenix.
Well, that's an upside down cross when you do it this way. That's that centerpiece is too, right? Well, you know what, man? It's been a great conversation. I hate to cut you off. I definitely want to do this again with you. This has been an amazing conversation. It's as good as I thought it was going to be. And hopefully we can have this again in a couple months, at least just a follow-up episode, just to see where we're tracking from this point forward to the future.
Okay.
Keep up the good work, man. Like, I am more than impressed with the wealth of knowledge you had. And again, you said you were new since, COVID, right? Like, that's a lot of heavy lifting to do in such a short period of time. Like,
You'll
even
be
myself,
patient.
I've read more books this year myself than I've read in my entire life. My spouse could attest to that. Like, and for all those people out there who are reading, if you don't like sitting down reading a book all day, here's a simple solution. Grab the book, take a highlighter and look at the index, and then look at something that speaks to you and highlight it and then find the page. Read that way. Even if you're skimming, you're going to remember it, and then you're going to start building upon it, I think.
Mhm.
With you, and any final things that you'd like to say, any books that you would recommend people who are just looking into this that they should start with, like top 5?
Hold on, let me look on my Amazon because I saw it and I truly think it's going to be a top fiver because it's expensive. That's why. That's usually always a good sign for me. So Bloody Zion by Edward Hendry was a banned book off of Amazon. Hendry, Hendrie.
Is it
Phenomenal book.
anti-Semitic?
Yeah, well, it's not in the traditional sense. He more so connects Zionism to Phariseeism. He exposes Jesuits and Masons. So, like, all three in one. It's kind of
So the
like,
Talmudic version of everything.
well, explaining, like, this is what they believe, and this is what they're not telling you. This is the USS Liberty incident. This is the history with that. He brings
Okay.
a bunch of verses to his thing. So I absolutely love it when somebody, like, when you're reading history and you're getting verses to compare what they're talking about. Phenomenal. So you have that bloody what was the second one? Rulers of Evil by Tupper Saucy. Again, you might only be able to get a digital one because the average is like $800 to $2,000 to get an actual solid copy because they don't make it anymore. But you can print it off from online if you know how to get access. Maybe your librarian will be able to refer you to a source. Highly recommend that because for Americans especially, explains how we were never as a free country, explains the origins of where this whole, like, you're free because of this, and explains Sun Tzu in a new light. It's actually probably written by a Jesuit and breaking that all down. And then The Curse of Canaan by Eustace Mullins. Read it with a grain of salt. As I said before, I did learn a lot in there with all my other stuff. It was a nice bracket of filling in the slots of stuff I didn't know. And then this other author that I just was talking about earlier, Twilight Language by Michael Hoffman. And then I think the other one I'm going to be interested in that he wrote was Usury in Christendom. I think those are going to be, again, I like the aspect of looking into usury. As I've been telling people before, I listened to Michael Parenti, and everybody's going to be like, oh my gosh, you look in, it's a communist. No, he is writing from the perspective, and I like this because the traditional communist is just saying, give good wealth, have government programs. In contrast, he's talking about the government industrial complex. He's talking about the imperialist aspect of taking over a land, and he's explaining how capitalism actually gets food on your shelves, right? And how they're doing all this crap in the media. They're manipulating the media in order so how you interpret it as patriotism, blah 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 blah. So I really like his perspective on things, because it's not just the typical communist this, capitalism that. I don't, and to just answer people who are going to be listening, I'm right smack dab between Parenti and then Michael Friedman, but Friedman never talks about the capitalist aspect of how you extort said goods to get them on your shelves for trading. I don't endorse any monetary philosophy because, again, the love of money is the root of all evil. I believe more in a society of barter and trade. However, I love hearing and entertaining the concept of their arguments of how they came to that decision, right? So yeah, that's those are the 5 books. Oh, and Pagan Christianity, again, by Frank Viola, as I mentioned before in the beginning of the show, or was it when you left? I think it might have been when you left. Yeah, it was when you left. Insightful book if you're trying to look at, like, every time I go to church, it feels kind of crappy. Like, this is not how church should be done. You start understanding the pagan rituals that were pilfered into the congregation and we just adapted in like it's Christian. No, it's not.
I will never go to a church again to ask a denomination church ever again to ask these questions. I'll tell you a funny story about this. I went and confronted an imam. I went and confronted a Presbyterian, a shaman, and a Catholic priest. And I never got any call back from the rabbi. He just told me to fuck myself. I was like, I'm not surprised there. But the Catholic priest, I'm not kidding you, he hands me Catholics for Dummies, the book, the freaking stupid yellow book, Catholics for Dummies, and go, there's your answers. I'm like, I came to you and you wasted an hour of my time and that was your answer. And if I don't read that book, I'd burn in hell. Go fuck yourself. You're Masonic. And that's when I piece that together. I'm like, you're doing rituals just like the Masons. Go fuck yourself.
Yes.
Don't need you. I'm out of here. And that's the thing. Like I used to go to Pentecostal youth group, and I thought those people were crazy. I was like, you know what? Walking out of here, Pentecostals make more fucking sense, even though they're not. Right. So that's my level of digging, man. So I'm right there fucking with you. Like I'm so happy we had this discussion. I really hope that we can do this again. Like this has been great. And keep doing what you're doing, man. Like you're on the right path. Like, and like I said, we've kind of been on some of the same followed sites. So like, I'm sure I'll see stuff that you post and you'll see stuff that I post, but it's not like we're saying different things. We're just saying the same thing in a different way and getting to the same conclusion. And that's all I really want to get out of this. Like my job's not, like we used to say this in the military, you can't save everybody. But if you get one person to even consider, then your job's done. And I think that's what we're here to do. And we only got 5 years left. And that's what I said to Brendan. I said, we were both forced retired, at a young age.
Yeah.
It would be a sin for us to waste it by not doing this right now. And that's how I look at it. Even though we're not physically in the workforce anymore, this conversation at this time in life is probably one of the most important things we could ever do. So again, thank you for coming on the show. I look forward to seeing more of your stuff. Is there anything you want to share or get out there for the followers?
I'll send you a copy paste of the stuff I usually post, but Man of Daily podcast, Spotify, Rumble, YouTube, Patreon, if you can, and you can customize. It doesn't be $10, $3, $5. If you can, you really help me out to keep going. Like I said, I haven't had vacation in 5 years, man. I'm freaking burning out. Absolutely, to be absolutely honest. Prayers for a wife would be nice before 5 years clocks out. And then merch. Like I have governments are cigars, and citizens are ashtrays. Quotes from myself, or Audit APAC with the Twin Towers. You might have noticed on here.
Send me your link and I'll add that all to the description below at the end. And hopefully we get that support out there for you. Again, I want to do this again. Hopefully down the road we can get a couple other seekers, maybe like do a 5-way conference or whatever, and just iron these out together and find the right verbiage. I think that's what's most important. We need to find the right verbiage, and even if it's a pamphlet, write the right words out for people to at least consider something. I don't want people to convert. Just use your brain. That's all I want. Just turn the switch on one last time before the end, and maybe we'll find ourselves somewhere.
Try to use it.
All right, Brendan. Is there anything else that you'd like everyone else to know? Anything you're working on?
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man. It's been a blast.
Well, thank you. 3.5 hours. This was appropriate amount of time just for the amount that we covered. So again, thank you for having a long-winded conversation. I'm sure we could keep going longer, but you know what? We got to start learning how to do short form just a little bit. So thank you again, sir. I do much appreciate it. Brandon sends his regards, and can't wait to have you back.
Thanks for having me on.
Everyone else out there, thanks again. Stay, you know what to do. Hit the thing, make the ding, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.